East Hampton Town Board, we are live, being recorded and streamed.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Cheryl, if you could please do the roll call.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So today we're going to open up the meeting with a public portion. We're asking you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. As you can see, there's a lot of folks that want to speak, and I'm sure there's more on the line. Then we have 5 topics. The first is the town statement on the federal immigration enforcement, and that'll be read by myself. And then we're going to have Liliana Rodriguez, our case manager, Spanish speaking in our Human Services Department, read it in Spanish. And then the Chief Sarla will come up and answer questions that the board may have. That'll be followed by a presentation by our Human Services Director, Diane Patrizio, on the Human Services Department overview. Then Deputy Supervisor Kate Rogers will take us through a brief summary of a lot size analysis by Hamlet that came out of our discussions on the zoning work that we've been doing. And then Town Attorneys Jake Turner and Nancy Marshall will give us a presentation on making some changes to our wireless code. And finally, Council Member Ian Calder-Piedmont and Scott Wilson, our Director of Land Acquisition and Management, will be doing a presentation on the Springs Park invasive species test recommendation. That'll be followed by liaison reports, and then we have some resolutions. So I know a few of you have already signed up, so we'll go through the list of the folks that have already signed up, and then we'll take a show of hands of who here wants to speak, and then we'll intermix that with the folks that are on the line. Okay, so first up is Betty Smith. Welcome, Betty. If you could come up to the podium and then just adjust the microphone so that it's, and if you could just state your name for the record for the clerk. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, I'm a resident of East Hampton. I've been in this community for 52 years. And also, I'm a Democratic committee person, and I'm here to ask this town board to make a public statement, as Southold and Riverhead has already done. I feel this community and the board owes the hardworking families and law-abiding immigrants in East Hampton to be supported and protected as best we can by our actions. We would also be addressing the needs of the children who attend our schools from the emotional and distressing cruel orders of this administration, which would separate families. This is not only a humane endeavor, but also a financial and practical need for this town. Many of these people are our friends, neighbors, and people we work alongside with every day. East Hampton cannot survive this loss. These undocumented people support and work in our homes, healthcare institutions, restaurants, many businesses, schools, and religious institutions. Democracy is at stake on many levels in this country, and the least we can do on a local level is support our documented and undocumented law-abiding families from separation, deportation, or internment at Guantanamo or worse. Most of us in this room would not be here today if our families had not integrated to this country. So I implore you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Betty. Next up, Carol Buda. Welcome, Carol.
Carol Buda Springs. Unfortunately, I can't stay for Scott's presentation later, so I want to make a couple of comments. I read online the recommendations. My concern on the committee, when we discussed this, I thought that it would be a smaller area. He talks about a test area of up to an acre. I'm like to suggest that perhaps it not be more than a quarter of an acre, and I'll tell you why. My concern is in the past, when they cleared the autumn olive, basically ended up with fields, maybe a couple of trees here and there. But the main concern is everywhere that they cleared, it was replaced with mugwort, which is a very unattractive invasive plant, which is, and very, very hard to get rid of. So I think that it might be premature to clear another large area without having a plan for what's going to replace it, which is kind of hard because there's no water in the park. I had passed on to Ian a while ago something someone had passed on to me about an organization that was helping communities revegetate areas with native plants, and that's an option, perhaps. So the other concern I have is the wild roses. Also an invasive species on the list to be removed. You know, they're beautiful, people like them. They're an amazing habitat for birds and insects and other things that are important to the environment. So I think it's important to have a whole picture of the environmental issues. Everyone understands there has to be maintenance and there has to be some protection for the trees that are there. So I gave you some pictures. What I'm suggesting is instead of doing the test area in a large space, which looks like it's going to end up as another, field like this, is do a smaller test area to show the public and give people a chance to comment on it. And then at the same time, go around the park. The pictures that I gave you are from another area of the park, not in the area they plan to work in. All over the park, when you walk through, you'll see an invasive species wrapping itself around, choking a tree that we want to save, like an evergreen or an oak tree. So to me, that's a no-brainer. You go around the park and cut those away. I don't think you have to be a horticulturist to understand the danger. In my house, my other home, when I had vines growing on trees, we just cut them off to protect the trees. The other thing that's important to comment, I don't know if they're aware, I was away last month, but people told me that people were taking the blue tape off the trees. I think you mentioned somewhere they taped the trees they wanted to save with blue tape. But people in the park thought that they were being marked to be taken down, apparently, and removed them. I walked in the park the last couple of days, and I see very, very few blue tape trees. So before they go and clear anything, someone has to go back and make sure that they retape and perhaps put up a sign for people that those trees are marked for preservation. I would just like to show, Scott shows this picture as a plus, and this is a negative. But the way the community feels, the community loves this foliage, and they don't want this at all. Plus, first of all, it's ugly, and secondly, we talked about sightlines. Sightlines are a danger in the park because one of the reasons the park has been so safe
There's a lot of folks that want to speak today.
There's separation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope they'll consider some alternatives in refining this a little bit.
Thank you. Prudence Carabine. Welcome, Prudence.
Welcome to you back on vacation, from vacation. As many of you know, I come from very old families here in East Hampton, and I have never been so heartsick about my country and my station as a citizen as I am now. And I know that every generation of my family, both Talmadges and Hamiltons, would feel the same. When I pledge allegiance to the flag, as we just did, I think of my friends and people who have been in this town for 30, 40, 50 years, who are now huddling in their houses, sometimes keeping their children out of school, afraid to shop. And I think what a terrible place we have come to. And the only thing that can change a tyrant is people standing up all over this country and saying, no more, enough, the cruelty stops now. This whole world in the Americas and the United States has been built by people coming here from somewhere. And I believe it's time to stop this now, and I hope East Hampton can find some subtle creative ways of assisting these people so they know their rights and they know what they can do. And if somebody knocks on the door, they know what to say and do before they're carted away. My husband and I are both extremely upset about this. Thank you.
Louise Bergerson. Welcome, Louise.
This good? Yep, okay. Good morning, I'm Louise Bergerson. I live in Amagansett. When we speak about immigrants in our community, mainly Latinos at this time, I want to remind people of two words: consumers and taxes. Latinos shop at the hardware stores, like most of us. They eat at John Papa's, like many of us. They fill their cars at the gas station, like all of us. But they also shop at Riverhead Building Supplies. They eat pizza at Fiero's, and they buy their groceries at the IGA and the Stop and Shop. Latinos keep many local businesses running and help them thrive. Immigrants are not a burden to the economy, they contribute to the economy. Not only are they consumers, they're also taxpayers. With every dollar they spend, they support the economy by way of taxes. But when they're frightened, what do? They stay home, they don't shop, they're afraid of going to work and to school, they hide and stop contributing to the economy. So before we hope to see many of them deported, let's remember that without immigrants, East Hampton would not be the year-round vibrant community that we are. So remember those two words: consumers and taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Tim Frazier.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Tim Frazier, and I represent a group, concerned neighbors of Long Island, all American citizens and permanent residents of East Hampton Town and Long Island's East End. We are deeply troubled by the possibility that federal agents acting under directives from the Trump administration may seek to intervene, interview, detain, and deport members of Long Island's Latino communities who lack proper documentation for residence or work in the United States. What our group believes: the vast majority of undocumented Latinos are responsible, law-abiding, tax-paying individuals who, for years, often decades, have made significant positive contributions to our community's economy and culture. Removing these individuals from our community would cause considerable harm to our local economy and community life. Regardless of the letter of the law, the contributions these immigrants have made render it inhumane and counterproductive to uproot them from our homes, deprive them from their livelihoods, separate families, and deport them, particularly to countries where their very lives may be in danger. We believe our community, not the federal government, is best positioned to determine whether these individuals deserve their place in our midst. We believe, therefore, that local authorities and police departments in East Hampton and Long Island should not cooperate with federal agents attempting to interview, detain, or deport immigrants based solely on their lack of documentation, except where they are served with judicial warrants to do so. What can ordinary citizens do about this issue? We encourage citizens of East Hampton Town and each town and village on Long Island to ask their local officials the following questions. Does the town or village have a formal policy regarding cooperation with ICE? What guidelines exist for local police cooperation with ICE, and can data be provided on past cases of such cooperation? Would the town or village consider adopting policies that limit ICE access to local resources and facilities such as jails? Will the town or village require judicial warrants before complying with ICE detention requests? What alternative measures can be taken to protect undocumented immigrants while addressing public safety concerns? What steps are being taken to build trust with the immigrant community, and are there plans to provide legal assistance or rapid response programs for undocumented immigrants? How can town residents participate in shaping local immigration policies to reflect community values? We strongly encourage concerned citizens of East Hampton and in each town and village on Long Island to request meetings with their local officials, including chiefs of police, at the earliest opportunity to discuss these critical issues in detail. We must all stay alert to how the new administration is impacting our communities. We, the residents of East Hampton and Long Island, know our community's values best and should have a voice in shaping the nature of these communities. In that regard, to the best of our knowledge, there is no law requiring local officials to cooperate with federal authorities in the execution of federal immigration policy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. All right, that's everyone that signed up. So now I'm going to take a show of hands of who would like to speak. Mark? Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Mark Smith. Here is a taxpayer, member of this community, and a business owner. The impact of deportations on local business community. As local business owners, we recognize the vital role that workers, customers, and entrepreneurs of all backgrounds play in sustaining our local economy. The forced removal of members of our community through deportation can have serious economic and social consequences. Below are some key points to consider when addressing this issue. Workforce disruptions. Many local businesses rely on immigrant workers in industries such as hospitality, construction, food service, retail, landscaping, agriculture. Sudden labor shortages could lead to staffing challenges, increased costs for hiring and training, and even business closures. 2, economic decline and reduced consumer spending. Fewer residents means fewer customers spending money at local businesses, leading to revenue declines. Deportations can create uncertainty, discouraging both investment and business expansion. 3, impact on business owners and entrepreneurs. Some local businesses are owned by immigrants who create jobs and contribute to economic growth. Deportations may result in businesses closing or struggling due to the loss of key personnel. 4, disruptions to local supply chains. Small and mid-sized businesses often depend on local networks of suppliers and service providers, some of whom may be affected by deportation policies. 5, harm to community stability and reputation. The fear and instability created by deportations can discourage future workforce recruitment and drive skilled labor to other areas. A community seen as hostile to immigrants may struggle to attract new residents and new business. 6, legal and compliance challenges for employers. Increased immigration enforcement can place additional regulatory burdens on businesses, leading to concerns about compliance and potential penalties. Employers may face difficulty navigating evolving immigration policies while trying to retain their workforce. And in closing, I'd like a call to action. We urge our local officials to consider these economic consequences when shaping policies and enforcement practices. A balanced approach that supports both community stability and business stability is critical for our long-term economic growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Sunglasses are.
Sorry.
Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dunn. I'm a resident of Montauk, and I'm also here as a member of the East Hampton Town Democratic Committee representing ED 18. I'm here to express my support for members of our community who are living in fear of the president's inhumane deportation efforts, and to encourage you to adopt legislation explicitly limiting cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. New York State Attorney General Letitia James recently issued guidance offering model language for such local legislation, and I would encourage the board to review such guidance and to enact appropriate legislation that makes explicit our town's support for our most vulnerable neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Would you like to speak? Welcome. If you could please state your name for the record.
Daniela Rivas. It's a little overwhelming.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to.
You take your time. Okay.
Thank you.
You can stop the clock, please, Jason.
Done.
Thank you.
I'm here because we have a lot of friends who are scared. And it's really hard for me when my 10-year-old daughter asks me, Mom, are you legal? And I'm sure this place will be full of people, but they're scared. And the most important thing that we need to focus right now is our kids, because they are scared. Because my 10-year-old asking me that and their friends asking questions and saying that while they're at school, they're scared that when they go back, their parents won't be there. And I know most of them, and I speak like, of course, we're scared too for our friends. So we have most of our life living here, and not the unknown. It's very scary for the kids, especially like if it's scary for us, like to lose our friends, to lose our family that maybe don't have a legal status, that it will affect our business, it will affect everything around us. But then the kids are scared of what's going to happen to them, and they need that safety. They need someone to go and talk to them and explain them what's going to happen and tell them that we know how the law works. We do want a safe place. We understand that a lot of people that are not doing the right thing need to go and pay for what they have done. And we understand all of that, but the kids are very scared and they need our support and they need our love. And we really want answers. I need to know what I have to tell my daughter, that she's scared that she's not gonna see her friends anymore. So I just wanna know if there's like a plan for the chief, or who is gonna talk to the parents at this school, or what's gonna happen to make them feel that we are protecting them, that the place that they know it's their home, it's the place that's gonna protect them, that is gonna protect their family, and not obviously put aside the business, including mine. Like, we pay taxes, we do everything that it's right. So we wanna have that safe place, and also not only the bad things of the law, but the good things. Who's gonna protect our people? That's all I'm asking, is just like answer so we can have something to tell the kids and they feel okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Right back there. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Yesenia Kachimbo. I am a longtime resident of Montauk. I grew up in Montauk. I moved to Montauk in 1995. I stand before you today not just as an advocate, but as a proud member of this incredible immigrant community, the Latino community. We are not outsiders. We are local, hardworking, and deeply rooted in the fabric of this town. We are consumers, taxpayers, business owners, and community leaders. We are mothers, daughters, fathers, and sons. We are the ones who woke up early to open our businesses, to staff the restaurants, to build homes, who care for our children and the elderly. I remember being at my parents' door at 5 in the morning and not leaving there until 10 o'clock at night in Montauk. We are a family who has come here to work and be respectful. Our contributions are undeniable. We invest in our neighborhoods, support our local businesses, and bring vibrancy to our schools and culture. Yet despite our impact, we still face challenges, barriers to resources, opportunities, recognition. But let me be clear, we are not asking for a handout. We are not demanding a seat. We are demanding a seat at the table. We want to hear the town stand on our behalf to support us as we have been supporting this town. Supporting the immigrant community means supporting the very foundation of this town. When we thrive, our entire community thrives. So let's stand together, uplift one another, and ensure that every voice is heard, every contribution is valued, and every dream has a chance to become a reality. I repeat what the person before me just said. This room would be full of people like myself except many of us are scared. Many of us don't know who to trust, who we can speak to, and who will stand up for us. And I beg the town and towns across to really consider the fact that this is when we stand together. This is when we put our hand up. Thank you.
Larry? Welcome, Larry.
I wasn't planning on talking. My name is Larry Smith. I've been more than represented this morning by my wife and my son in the back, who spoke more eloquently than I will. But I just want to mention to the group an experience that I had yesterday. I'm sorry, Sunday. We were driving home from Staten Island, and everything was fine, no traffic, and we hit a backup on the Southern State Parkway. That backup extended for about a mile and a half, and we figured must be a terrible automobile accident or some tragedy like that. There was a tragedy, and what was happening was that there were 3 lanes of traffic, which merged into 2, which merged into 1. And when it merged into 1, there were several New York State troopers there. There were no local police departments there. There were many, I would say many, there were 4 or 5 men in what looked like you would see ordinarily as ice jackets, but there was no mention of who they were. They were civilians in a black civilian car. I've lived a long time. I've seen a lot of things. It was the first time I experienced in this country going through a checkpoint. And what they were looking for were undocumented, I would assume undocumented, but I don't know how they would know who was documented and who was not documented. But they were looking for Latino people, I presume, for whatever the reason. My car came up, didn't bother stopping or anything, just pushed me right through. And they did stop several other cars along the way. I'm just presuming that this was part of what policing is used for. But I was really identifying with the people in the cars, the terror that some undocumented people might be feeling, the children in the cars. This was a Sunday afternoon, and families were out, not expecting to be going through a checkpoint. I haven't experienced situations like that. And I haven't heard of them since 1942, 43. You can draw whatever parallels you want, but I felt a parallel there. And I just felt the inhumanity that was taking place. There has to be better ways to do this. And there's nothing that this particular group can do, but I was frightened. For me, you think of how the other people felt. Anyway, I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you, Larry. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Gloria? Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria Frazee. I hadn't expected that this is what the meeting would be about, and it's personally very emotional to me, and I thank all of the speakers for raising your voice. I myself am a first-generation American. My parents both escaped, came here as refugees. My dad was tried in absentia and would have been shot. I'm so grateful to be here in this community and to welcome all people who are in this community. Thank you for being here. Okay, I am here about community. I am on the board of Rewild, helped start the local chapter. I'm on the town's sustainability committee, and I started East Hampton Compost, which is really about community the health of our community, bringing community together to work for our survival, our health, our well-being. Next project that is coming down the pike is talking about plastics and the dangers of plastic pollution, both for our environment and our families. How can we raise awareness about the harmful effects of microplastics, how they play a role in our homes, in the foods we buy, and in our entire community. There's a fabulous course that I've taken a couple of times with a number of local high school students called Beyond Plastics. It's through Bennington College. And we have the opportunity to audit the course, and then we'll start a local discussion group with experts and local officials. A number of people from the Department of Natural Resources are taking this here in the town of East Hampton. And we'll bring people together to talk about what is going on locally, how can we make a difference in our homes and in our communities and in our local businesses with our decisions. So website will be up tonight, tomorrow at rewildlongisland.org, and I'll hand out some just basic information. I've got meetings set up already with a couple of town board members, but for local issues, we'll be talking about items like black plastics that we get a lot of our food in, microwave safety and plastic containers, single-use plastic bottles, and near and dear to my own heart, bioplastics and compostables. What can we be doing? A lot of people are using these green bags. Please don't. It doesn't work. Let's find things that work and work together to make things work for our families and our community.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Thanks. Carl? Welcome, Carl.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for making this opportunity. My name is Carl Iris, local attorney, and one of the things that I do, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and we had a very robust discussion. I'm also a member of the CAC. We had a very robust discussion last night about some of the concerns that are rampant in our community about immigration enforcement and what some of the things we can do for our, some of the information we can put out there to assist some of our friends and neighbors. And as a criminal defense attorney, which is one of the hats I wear, we discuss and get resources from immigration attorneys that, in this moment, I have these resources, and I passed them on to members of the committee last night, and I think they were passed on to the supervisor and council member Rogers last night. I encourage you to pass those on. If those can be valuable to our community, please pass them on. I think they're great resources. I just wanted to explain where they came from and encourage you to use them. Knowing your rights, I think, is critical. And for all of us out there who are concerned about our friends and neighbors, please pass those on. Some of you guys got that information last night. I see us here today. Compassion, empathy, those are fundamental American values. They're written into our founding documents. And through community, the people will always be in charge and will be able to weather whatever storm temporarily might come out of the temporary office holder. I think just to keep it brief, there are a couple of priorities that we get as defense attorneys that we pass on to our clients. And what came up recently were other members of the community knowing that people in my position had this information, non-criminal clients, just the family members and other community members coming to us asking, what can I do? And the answer is be prepared. Be prepared with a family plan for what to do for people who are at risk, who might have some pretty serious consequences happen to them. So the family planning about what to do for temporary guardian papers and other financial matters Those were some resources that I passed on. There are lots of things that are available, online that I passed on, and I encourage the board to pass on and make as public as you can. The priorities, I think, are for those people who might be subject for expedited removal, which is for people who have been less in the United States for less than 2 years. It's a contrived method that seems to have the goal of scaring people by not having any sort of due process available. It's just a ruthless manner to get people out of the United States who have been here for less than 2 years. So for those people who have been here for more than that, any sort of proof they can carry that establishes a factual basis that they've been in the United States. I mean, it sounds crazy, but electrical bills or anything can help establish that they've been here for more than 2 years. I think that's a priority I would encourage people to be aware of. And the next priority is like, who's at risk? Know your rights. Anyone who's doesn't have lawful immigration status, and people who have lawful status, even legal permanent residents like green card holders and refugees and visa holders, if they've had certain criminal convictions, they're also at risk. So being aware of their legal status and prior convictions, those people can be targeted, and these priorities can change. They've changed under other presidents, and they can change at the drop of a hat. So these former priorities, used to have a top priority. What was a threat to national security? Nothing appears in the current orders that prioritizes national security. On the contrary, it seems to prioritize improper entry, which is a different classification.
Excuse me, we also do have a variety of callers on the line as well.
So,
Jason.
I hope that information helps. I see I'm out of time. I don't know if the board has any questions or if there's anything else I can do, but we had a robust discussion last night. It was a public discussion, and I encourage everyone to be good neighbors. I think that in a time like this, reaching out and making sure that everybody knows who their supporters and their allies are is an invaluable part of community. Thanks for making this forum for us.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the phones now since we've got a lot of folks that are standing by. Okay, Jason, if you could put the first caller through.
All right.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you, Betsy.
Yes, they can hear you.
Okay, this is Francesca Rhiannon. I live in Springs, where many, if not most of those who do the essential services that we need as a community live. These are the construction workers, the retail workers, the bank clerks, the elder care workers, gardeners, landscapers, people in doctor's offices, nurses, etc. Many are documented, but it's estimated that more than 20% of our immigrant workforce are not. And that is because we have a broken immigration system. These are people who have come here, work hard, and contribute to our community. Many undocumented immigrants live in families where some family members are documented or citizens. Let's be clear. When people talk about, these are people who are breaking the law, a much higher percentage of crimes are committed by native-born U.S. citizens than by immigrants. But now, personally, I want to say the best neighbors I've ever had happen to have been undocumented. They always looked out for me. During Hurricane Sandy, in the howling wind, my neighbor, who didn't yet know me, came over to check on me to make sure I was okay. Later, an other neighbor who happened also to be undocumented cleared away a tree that had fallen on my driveway during a storm. I didn't ask them to do it, they just did it, and I was so grateful to them for having done it. They became valued friends. In World War II, I heard somebody talk about 1942. Well, in 1942, my Catholic Dutch father took an illegal boy into his apartment where he sheltered him for 4 years because he was a Jewish refugee from Germany. He risked his life again and again to protect the, quote, illegals of that time. He not only sheltered that boy, but he found hiding places in Eastern Holland for Jews facing deportation in Amsterdam, the kind of people who are facing deportation in our country. He later married my American Jewish mother, and I've always been so proud and thankful to him. He was a shining example that we need to follow now. He broke the law to save lives. Please, please create specific town resolution language to protect our valued immigrant neighbors. Obeying unjust, hateful laws is just plain wrong. If we allow the Trump administration to tear our communities and our families apart, we will be aiding and abetting him in a crime against humanity that will forever stain our reputation as a community. And I want to thank everybody else who's spoken here. I really was afraid that there would be people who would come up to spew the kind of hatred that I've seen on nextdoor.com. And I'm so glad that there are so many people here who feel the way I do, that we need to protect our community and every valued member of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. You could put the next caller through, please.
Hi, this is Anna Sprenta from Amagansett. I read the statement that was released earlier this morning by the town on the issue of immigration enforcement, and while I am very grateful to you for starting the conversation today, I'm deeply concerned that the statement raises more questions than it answers. As we have heard this morning, people are terrified. The community desperately needs reassurance and very clear information from their local government and its police department. I know that the board and Chief Sarlo are aware of this, and I have no doubt that you all care deeply about every member of this community, which is why I am completely shocked, and I'm struggling to understand why the statement from our town opens with a quote from President Trump's executive order referencing an invasion. That quote is followed by a statement of cooperation with federal enforcement agents, but no statement of values. This choice does the opposite of reassuring those in our community who are terrified. I hope that during the town board members' questions with Chief Sarlo, more clarity and specifics are provided in a way that reassures members of our community, our friends, our colleagues, school children, the elderly, that our town will take a courageous position on the issue of immigration enforcement. In New York State, we have laws that protect immigrants and limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement efforts. The New York State Attorney General's website has posted guidance concerning local authorities' participation in immigration enforcement. I want to echo the comments made by Kelly Dunn and ask the board to please review the Attorney General's guidance and consider next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. You could put the next caller through, please, Jason.
Hello, caller ending 4956. You're on the air. Hello.
That's you.
Hey, there you are. Yeah, you're on the air. I heard you for a second.
Oh, hello?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Loud and clear.
Hello. This is Alice Tepper Marlin. I'm a resident of Springs and a member of the East Hampton Democratic Committee. I didn't mean to ask to be heard, just to listen. I did plan to speak if there weren't many, many other speakers. But I've been listening for the last 3/4 of an hour, and I am so proud of my neighbors and friends and citizens of East Hampton. Every key point that I would have made has been made. I applaud them and second them, and hope that all of you on the board and the law enforcement will listen carefully and do everything possible to protect our friends, neighbors, employees, customers, everyone in East Hampton who is afraid or threatened, that we will do everything we can to protect them. And I thank all of you.
Thank you, Alice.
Okay. I'll unmute the next caller.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hello, caller ending
Hello, good
4221.
morning.
Hey, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Good morning, board. This is Jane Uring, resident of Amagansett, not speaking as a member of any appointed board, but I am speaking as a member of the Zoning Code Amendment Working Group, though I am not speaking for the group as a whole. Before I go into the comments I wrote, I do want to express my deep respect to all who have spoken today. Any other topic today kind of pales in contrast to that, so forgive my other focus today, and I'm breaking into the middle of that. I see the resolution on the agenda for Thursday to formally notice a March 6 p.m. public hearing to consider the rebalancing of the town's maximum allowance formula. That public hearing will be an important milestone in the process. It started 22 months ago when then member, now Deputy Supervisor Kate Rogers, took it up. And it's a moment that when I first got involved in this whole issue, I never actually thought would happen. But I see the resolution reads as a proposed 7% plus 1,500 square foot new formula. As you know, I was at the prior work session on January 21st, where there was a bunch of, quote, tweaking and dilution of the proposed 7 plus 1,300 proposal. You know, I am a close watcher of this board, and I hope you know, and I want to make clear, I have the utmost respect for this board's deliberative process, discussions, debates, questioning, so please take these following brief comments in good faith spirit, which is meant. But I think it's important to reiterate that the formula recommendation from the Zoning Code Amendment Working Group came to you and was derived from more than a year and a half of data analysis, assessment of conditions, circumstances, consideration of alternatives, vetting of potential negative or unintended consequences, and the specific formula recommendation was found to be equitable across all lot sizes and will bring meaningful change and benefits to the land and the community. Given the board's rejection of the proposal to count some modest portion of the below-grade living areas back in December, there were actually other more effective and more conservative formula options that were on the table. However, there was full consideration of resident needs on the smaller lots. The conclusion of the underlying the recommendation, the proposed formula represents the legitimate balance between upper limit, modulation, and homeowner needs, desires, potential, and it's the minimum necessary change to the maximum GFA formula. I want to, and it was structured with the full intent of protecting affordability for young people and everyone else who lives and works in East Hampton, not to undermine it. I want to recognize Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez's opinion that perhaps 1,400 versus 1,300 would be preferable. That resonated with me. I understand it protects an extra cushion. However, what ensued at the last meeting were a lot of what-abouts back and forth. What about 1,500? What about 1,600? What about 1,800? There was a so-called splitting of the baby that came up. Again, I understand and respect each member's thoughts and input, but tweaking on the fly dilutes and, in a sense, delegitimizes a disciplined, non-arbitrary process of the working group. So for every upward tweak, you will accomplish less. So respectfully, my ask is that what is actually brought in the resolution to the public hearing is 7% plus 1,300, or I understand the idea of 7 plus 1,400, but I hope it really doesn't go further than that. After the public hearing, obviously, it is the board's discretion, of what to pass, what to accept, but until we really get down to the issue, there's material change needed on the table, and so I just wanted to make that comment before you codify or make that resolution later today, or on Thursday, excuse me. Thank you.
Okay. Are there other callers on the line, Jason?
Yes, there is. There's one additional caller who has yet to speak.
Thank you.
Hello, caller ending 2399. You're on the air.
Good morning, Supervisor Burke Gonzalez, members of the Town Board, and Chief Sarlo. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about the current President's promise and demand for a nationwide deportation of our Latino community members. As a resident of East Hampton for decades, my family and I have been fortunate and blessed to establish many meaningful and close relationships and friendships with diligent and hardworking Latino men and women. They are here legally with proper working visas and documentation. They pay taxes, and many have established themselves as successful business owners. The Latino residents of East Hampton came to find work and to improve their set of circumstances. They contribute to our community's economy and stability within services for all our residents. The Latino participation in our communities has enriched our knowledge of beautiful traditions and customs, and like our ancestors who as foreigners sailed across the ocean waters to come to the United States of America for the opportunity to build a better life for themselves and their families, our Latino friends and residents have come to improve their set of circumstances. Today, Latino contribution to our community is vitally important. They have a strong work ethic that benefits our entire community economically as well as culturally. A few years ago, you may remember, I initiated a Cinco de Mayo community party with my dear Latino friend. We were co-chairs of that event, and it brought our communities together with homemade Latino and American recipes, music, entertainment, and dancing. It was a fundraiser for Project Most, a vitally important after-school and summer camp organization for our children. The event was so successful and fun for everyone that my friend and I held it again the following year. The beauty of this effort is that everyone came together as friends, not foes. Bringing people together, not pulling them apart, is what makes our country stronger. Working together, not against one another, is key to building a healthy and stable community. Our stalwart New York Attorney General, the Honorable Letitia James, along with California's AG Robert Bonta, recently issued a joint statement that included 10 state attorney generals from Colorado, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Mexico, Rhode Island, and Vermont that addressed the role of state and local involvement in federal immigration enforcement, and I attached that to the letter that I sent in this morning to the town clerk's office with the link to that information. Like our ancestors before us, I'm hopeful that we cherish our Latino friends and neighbors among us who have come to America to build a new way of life, fruitful with promise and opportunity to find work and for the chance to build a better and more prosperous life for themselves and their families. Many of our friends are elderly or are small children. Many children were born here and have lived here their entire lives. This is their only known home. And I have also included the following link pertaining to the government police department's law enforcement immigration information from the state of New York. And I hope that as our town board representatives, you will protect our Latino friends with compassion and empathy as they are doing everything required by them of the law. I will end this because I know my time is up, but I'd like to say that we did have last year a bipartisan immigration reform bill that even various GOP members said was the strongest. But because it was election year, the current president insisted that they all vote no. That was a pushback on what is fair and right. So I'd like to say that we are a melting pot. We've always been referred to as that, and America is still that comprised of immigrants. We are all immigrants. The only natives are the indigenous people. Thank you for the opportunity to express my feelings and concerns. Susan McGraw-Keever.
Thank you, Susan. Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we do. Give me a second, and I'll unmute them right now. And they dropped off the second I unmuted them. That's about it. Everybody else on the line has already talked.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to go one more time. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to go? Welcome, Raul.
Good morning, and thanks for the
I'm
opportunity.
going to pull the mic down a little bit.
Thank you for the opportunity. Pleased to have this opportunity as a community member, member of the
If you could just state your name for the record, Raul.
Raul Guachambo.
Thank you.
Member of the CAC committee and also from the church. As a member of the church, I've seen these people who are feeling all this uncertainty during these times of ICE, seeing the news all over, and the situation that we are all aware of. This just doesn't affect only the people who are undocumented or are in a certain process of trying to become documented or citizen. I've seen people like the business owners who have been in the community who are citizens also feeling this kind of uncertainty, fearing that their businesses are going to be also devastated because they depend on this community to make their business grow or to be able to keep the business going. And they're calling, they're asking what's going to happen and should they invest or not. So this is affecting to a level of making investment decisions for people who are contributing to the community, and they are contributing in every way. As a real estate agent, also I've seen people, should we buy now? What if we end up having a rental home that we won't be able to rent it anymore to these people if everybody's going to be basically sent out home? So all these things and concerns that just makes me just try to help, but at the same time feeling powerless. And that's when, as many of us have talked, I also plead to the authorities that can guide us through this, can give us some tangible support for people, so I can go back to the people and help at least getting to know what we can do in this situation. How can we navigate through this? Because there is a lot of uncertainty. And now, basically, in the midst of this uncertainty, it is a time really to reflect. I think it's a really time to reflect about asking ourselves the kind of legacy that we want to leave behind to our kids, to the new generations, and having the future, these future generations thinking about who we were, what we did about this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raul. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Yes, this.
Okay, I can't see behind. Please come up. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanna Sanchez. I am actually a local immigration attorney, but I am not here to speak on behalf of my clients or my firm. I am truly here speaking as a local resident of East Hampton. I have a son, and it would be so devastating for me to know if my son was scared to go to school or go to the hospital, seek medical attention, because he would be fearful that something could happen to me as his mother. A lot of people are facing that fear, not knowing if they can report a crime, afraid that they will be deported themselves. So I come here asking the town board to please support the immigrant community, support our colleagues, our neighbors, our friends, spread their know your rights so people are informed. And even for citizens, maybe guidance on how citizens could even help undocumented people protect their rights. It's really important for people to feel safe, to feel respected, to feel like they do have power in here in terms of their rights. And I truly hope that we are able to make them feel welcomed, make them feel protected, make them feel respected, because we're all hardworking people looking for better opportunities for our family. And a lot of people come here not even because they want to. They suffer tragedies in their home country, and this is their only option. And they've been here for many years. Yes, some people probably come recently, but again, seeking opportunities, seeking to better themselves and better their communities. So I come here again as a resident of East Hampton with a family here. I would really like and hope to see that our community is keeping the community strong and together, and just protecting each other's rights and being the community that I grew up in, and not feeling fearful and feeling protected and wanted and safe. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for the job that you guys are doing. And I truly hope that we will build a stronger community, especially in these uncertain times. Maybe we can try in our own way or in our own town, bringing some type of certainty to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Sue, did you want to speak? Welcome.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for hearing me. I came in a little late today, so forgive me if I'm repeating anything, but I'm an attorney, and I've lived
For the record, so that
Oh, I'm sorry. Susan Manu. I live in Springs. That's it? Fine. That's all you need? That's all I'm giving. So I represent a large number of people who have come here, both legally and without documentation. And I think it's time that the town board and our leaders speak up for what would happen if I had a platform, which I do not have in my practice, but if I had a platform, I would suggest that every Latino not work for 3-4 days all over the country, because these are the people that manage our stores, that check us out at the grocery store, that clean our bathrooms. You all are our elected representatives. My family, which is an extended family, I think voted for every one of you here. So I've read what Riverhead and Southold have done, saying that they're not going to help with ICE by arresting people. I know for a fact that the jail is calling ICE and reporting people to ICE to hold them. That's illegal. They can't hold them after their release date unless they have a judicial subpoena. But I don't think that will happen. But I lived through the McCarthy era. My whole family thought McCarthy was the greatest thing that ever happened. He frightened everyone. People lost their jobs, their families, their homes. I understand that people are afraid of this president, but you all speak for us, and we voted for you. We need to hear your voices, please. We need to hear your voices to say that this anti-immigrant problem needs to be solved by legislation, by orderly coming to this country, which it is not now and never has been actually. But both the Republicans and the Democrats have stopped that legislation from coming to fruition. We're a little town. How many times have we said to ourselves at this age, especially my age, gee, what would I have done? What would I have done then? And I think, gee, I'm nobody, I'm afraid. But we cannot be afraid. You all have a lot to lose by speaking up. But I'm pleading with you. Even though we're a little town, all of you, some I know personally, I know you have powerful voices. I know the ones I do know personally think as I do. We need help, and we need people speaking out about the value to our community. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Sue. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Adrian. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. My name is Adriana Leon. Good morning. I would like to talk just a few words, and first of all, say thank you for putting this together, at least for us to know as a community, a Spanish community, know that you guys are thinking about us, and at least I would like to see if we can have information to provide our community, especially how to act, how to do, because I know the rates can be illegal because it's an order from the president, but I remember a long time ago when we also won a lawsuit against the illegal rates that they were doing in the wrong way, how sometimes they do it. So we would like to have the right information so we can help our community and get them. We've been for like a month trying to get information for many sources we didn't have. I see that today are some lawyers here trying to help and provide us information. We would love to have that information for them. And I know there's another local lawyer, Spanish, that I really don't want to mention the name, but we were trying to hear for her, asking to see if she can provide information to us. And sadly, we didn't hear, knowing that she's Latino, and it was a good source for us. And thank you so much for this opportunity, for the time, and thank you for the people that are here today trying to support us. And also we have a program, an English program, along with many American people that they give their times to help our community to learn English and try to communicate and live and serve, and also give back to the community a lot of things that we're getting from you guys. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that would like to come and speak? All right, we're going to move on then with the with our topics, and I'd first like to just read an email that the chief and I got this morning from Minerva Perez of OLA. Hello, Chief Sarlo and Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez. I've received your police statement. I have a long-standing meeting that I cannot leave at 11 o'clock today. As stated, you are talking to and having dialogue with local advocacy groups. Let's sit down to allow OLA a better understanding of the intentions within the statement. In all honesty, the statement is probably the most truthful of all the recent municipal statements I've read. It's making clear the position of the federal directive related to ICE. What is still unclear to me are the ways the East Hampton Town Police Department will operate in relation to this other directive. And then Minerva lists a number of questions and has other questions that she'd like to follow up on. So just so folks know before we start, I've been on vacation, as Prudence pointed out. We are going to be meeting with OLA Tuesday. The chief and I have a meeting with the board of directors of Route to 27. And on Monday, the chief and I have a meeting with all 4 East End school superintendents. So we are open to having those meetings. Our door is always open, and we will work through this as a community. But now I'd like to read the statement that the town has put out. It's online. On January 20th, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order entitled Protecting the American People Against Invasion. Section 2 of the executive order states, it is the policy of the United States to faithfully execute the immigration laws against all inadmissible and removable aliens, particularly those aliens who threaten the safety or security of the American people. Further, it is the policy of the United States to achieve the total and efficient enforcement of those laws, including through lawful incentives and detention capabilities. And now the town statement. As policies at the federal level continue to evolve, the town of East Hampton and the East Hampton Town Police Department remain committed to protecting public safety and addressing violent crime by focusing resources on those who pose clear threats to our community, such as repeat DWI offenders, violent criminals, and sex offenders. The East Hampton Town Police Department has a duty to cooperate with federal and state enforcement agents to ensure the safety and security of our community, while remaining steadfast in treating all residents with fairness and dignity, recognizing that immigrants are vital to the strength, character, and success of our community. United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has made efforts in the past to seek out repeat offenders, violent offenders, and those with warrants in our community, and have safely and lawfully apprehended subjects here in East Hampton, and that will continue. The East Hampton Town Police Department has received no further federal or state guidance regarding new policies or procedures and has no information regarding ICE activity. It is important to note that the East Hampton Town Police Department policies have been guided by New York state law and the holding in People on Behalf of Wells versus DeMarco 2018, which determined that ICE detainers alone are not legally sufficient to justify detention. These policies have been in place for years, and the recent executive order does not alter or impact the way the East Hampton Town Police Department operates. In accordance with New York state law, the East Hampton Town Police Department does not detain or hold anyone on an ICE detainer, but requires a federal warrant signed by a judge. As the recent suit against the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office cites, these specific state guidelines, New York has deemed a detainer not to be sufficient. There is no means for local law enforcement to determine anyone's citizen status, nor is the East Hampton Town Police Department allowed to inquire as to their status. Arrest processing requires mandatory entry of biographical information into federal databases, which all federal law enforcement agencies have access to, and this is the only avenue federal authorities have to access any local department's information. If you make a report, are the victim of a crime, or are involved in an incident, there is no means for a local police department to assess your status, and in turn, no means to share your information with any federal agency. The East Hampton Town Police Department wants to ensure victims of crime that they are secure in coming forward and make it clear that the department is not inquiring as to anyone's citizenship status. The department will continue to collaborate with local advocacy groups, and to ensure this is clear and look to maintain a level of trust within our community. The East Hampton Town Police Department and town officials are in the process of attending meetings with local advocacy groups, clergy, and school districts to clarify the role of law enforcement, and will continue to foster an open dialogue regarding community safety and law enforcement. We will continue to work closely with local organizations to support community well-being, build trust, and ensure that all residents have access to resources that contribute to a safe and thriving town. By prioritizing public safety and human dignity, we strive to create a strong, united community where everyone is safe and valued. And now I'd like to ask Liliana Rodriguez, our case manager, Spanish-speaking in the Human Services Department, to read the statement in Spanish. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you for being here, Liliana.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, I'm going to read the statement, the East Hampton Town statement in Spanish. Declaración del municipio de East Hampton. El 20 de enero del 2025, el presidente Trump firmó una orden ejecutiva titulada Protección del pueblo estadounidense contra la invasión. La sección 2 de la orden ejecutiva establece: la política de los Estados Unidos es ejecutar fielmente las leyes de inmigración contra todos los extranjeros inadmisibles y deportables, en particular aquellos que amenacen la seguridad del pueblo estadounidense. Además, la política de los Estados Unidos es lograr la aplicación total y eficiente de esas leyes, incluso mediante incentivos legales y capacidades de detención. A medida que las políticas a nivel federal continúan evolucionando, el municipio de East Hampton y el Departamento de Policía del municipio
siguen comprometidos con la protección de la seguridad pública y la lucha contra los delitos violentos, centrando los recursos en aquellos que representan una clara amenaza para nuestra comunidad, como los reincidentes en el delito de conducir bajo los efectos del alcohol, los delincuentes violentos y los delincuentes sexuales. El Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton tiene el deber de cooperar con los agentes federales y estatales para garantizar la seguridad de nuestra comunidad y al mismo tiempo mantenerse firme en el trato con todos los residentes, reconociendo que los inmigrantes son vitales para la fortaleza, el carácter y el éxito de nuestra comunidad. El Servicio de Inmigración y Control de Aduanas de los Estados Unidos, ICE, ha realizado esfuerzos en el pasado para buscar a reincidentes, delincuentes violentos y personas con órdenes de arresto en nuestra comunidad y ha detenido de manera segura y legal a sujetos aquí en East Hampton, y eso continuará. El Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton no ha recibido más orientación federal o estatal sobre nuevas políticas o procedimientos y no tiene información sobre la actividad del Servicio de Inmigración y Control de Aduanas en esta zona del país. Es importante señalar que las políticas del Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton se han guiado por la ley del Estado de Nueva York y la decisión del caso ocurrido en el 2018, Peoples Railways versus Timarco, 168 AD 3D31, que determinó que las órdenes de detención del Servicio de Inmigración y Control de Aduanas de los Estados Unidos, ICE, por sí solas no son legalmente suficientes para justificar la detención. Estas políticas han estado vigentes durante años y la reciente orden ejecutiva no altera ni afecta la forma en que opera el Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton. De acuerdo con la ley del Estado de Nueva York, el Departamento de Policía de East Hampton no detiene ni retiene a nadie con una orden de detención del Servicio de Inmigración y Control de Aduanas de los Estados Unidos, ICE, sino que requiere una orden federal firmada por un juez, como la demanda reciente contra la oficina del alguacil del condado de Suffolk, que cita esas pautas estatales específicas. Nueva York ha considerado que una orden de detención no es suficiente. Las fuerzas de seguridad locales no tienen medios para determinar el estatus de ciudadanía de nadie, ni tampoco se permite al Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton investigar el estatus. El procesamiento de arrestos requiere la introducción obligatoria de información biográfica en bases de datos federales, a las que tienen acceso todas las agencias federales de seguridad. Y esta es la única vía que tienen las autoridades federales para acceder a la información de cualquier departamento local. Si presenta una denuncia, es víctima de un delito o está involucrado en un incidente, no hay forma de que el Departamento de Policía local acceda a su estado legal y a su vez no hay forma de compartir su información con ninguna agencia federal. El Departamento de Policía del municipio de East Hampton quiere garantizar a las víctimas de delitos que se sientan seguras al presentarse y dejan en claro que este departamento no está preguntando sobre el estado de ciudadanía de nadie. El Departamento de Policía seguirá colaborando con los grupos de defensa locales para garantizar que esto quede claro y buscará mantener un nivel de confianza con nuestra comunidad. El departamento del municipio de East Hampton y los funcionarios del municipio están en proceso de asistir a reuniones con grupos de defensas locales, clérigos y distritos escolares para aclarar el papel de las fuerzas del orden locales y seguirán fomentando un diálogo abierto sobre la seguridad de la comunidad y la aplicación de la ley. Seguiremos trabajando en estrecha colaboración con las organizaciones locales para apoyar el bienestar de la comunidad, generar confianza y garantizar que todos los residentes tengan acceso a los recursos que contribuyen a una ciudad segura y próspera. Al priorizar la seguridad pública y la dignidad humana, Nos esforzamos por crear una comunidad fuerte y unida donde todos estén seguros y valorados.
Thank you, Liliana.
Steve? Steve, we've actually closed public comment at this point. We can talk later. I think right now I'd like to hear from board members and from the chief. Thank you. Okay, so what we were going to do, I don't know, Mike, if you wanted to address the board first.
Very briefly, I don't have a long prepared statement. Obviously, the supervisor and I have had numerous discussions which helped craft the town's position and the supervisor's statement. I just want to be very clear about several things to just answer the questions ahead of time. There is nothing in place in New York State law that allows us to enforce federal immigration law. And there is no policies in place that allow us to ask anyone's immigration status unless it is during arrest processing for a crime, during which there is a New York State arrest report box that must be checked as to whether or not someone is a citizen or not. That goes into the New York State database. It's not collected locally. It's not stored anywhere. It's just a biographical data question that could be asked or answered. The box may be checked or not. That is it. The only time we ever receive any information from the ICE agencies is during arrest processing, during fingerprinting of a crime. We may get a notice back from a federal agency that someone may be either wanted on a detainer or a warrant. When we get that back, a supervisor evaluates it. If it's a detainer, obviously based on case law and New York State policies, we cannot detain someone on that. We never have. Second action we may get is a warrant. There are two types of warrants. There's a civil warrant. That is not enough sufficient for us to hold on as well. It has to be a criminal warrant signed by a federal judge. Typically what we have seen in the past years is those are generated by a subject who has committed a crime, either been convicted or charged with a crime, appeared or not appeared in court as a follow-up, and ICE has determined that that person was wanted for removal, either missed a hearing, avoided a hearing, or had other criminal charges pending against them, or had been convicted of other criminal charges. Those are the only warrants that we've received. And in the past 5 years, we started keeping track of all of these interactions in 2018. And over the past 5 years, we've received a grand total of 5 detainers, of which only one subject was transported to the Suffolk Sheriff's Jail because they couldn't meet bail, and they were remanded to the jail. And that subject subsequently was picked up by ICE at the jail. We did not detain that person. We did not hold that person in our facility. We did not make any further notifications, but that person was arrested by us, went through the judicial process, ended up there, and was removed from there. We had no piece in that, no part in that. Additionally, we want to make it very clear that victims of crimes, those involved in a report made to the police department, if you're in an aided case, you need an ambulance, you want to report something that happens in your home, we do not ask. We're not allowed to ask. We do not ask anyone's citizenship status. We really need to make sure that all people residing in our communities feel safe reporting crime and coming to us in their times of need. And it's extremely important. To the contrary of popular opinion, we actually have signed anywhere between 8 and 15 U visa requests, which expedites the victim of a crime's immigration process each year over the last 5 years. So while we've handed no one over on an immigration detainer, we've actually assisted many members of the community through the U visa process by signing and providing documentation that they were the victim of a crime, and that helps them through their immigration status process. Additionally, our policies have been long-standing, were adjusted and amended through 2018 and 2019 based on state guidance through the Attorney General's office and through case law based on the recent case that you cited in your statement. And those are what all East End Police Department's policies are shaped by. And local law enforcement is here to enforce New York State and local laws. Our level of participation and cooperation with ICE lies in criminal matters, where if there's a signed warrant by a judge on criminal matters, we have a duty and an honor to support their efforts to ensure that that warrant is served properly, and that those are on criminal offenses. We've had sex offenders, we've had repeat felony DWI offenders, and violent assault or, robbery, burglary. Those are the types of offenses that have triggered the arrest warrant process. And we have a duty to protect all members of our community. And if the federal warrant is criminal in nature, we cannot lawfully not participate in that process. And again, we've turned over no subjects directly to ICE in the last 5 years. So I just want to get all that out clear and straight up. Before we go into questions, I know some of the board members might have some specific questions that they bring forward from some of their CAC meetings and some of their discussions with the constituents. I'd be happy to try to answer those to the best I can right now. And I want to reiterate what the supervisor said. We have a lot of meetings with our key stakeholders coming up in the next 2 weeks, and we plan on making sure that we're completely transparent and work as closely as we can to alleviate fears. Lastly, we have received absolutely zero notifications of any changes in the warrant/detainer policy. We have received no notifications through the feds or the state in regards to any change in process for warrants or detainers being signed by a judge or any other changes in how that process is moving forward. So there's been no legal guidelines and no federal changes in that at all. Despite everything that's been in the news, we've received nothing. So, any of the board members want to ask? I'll do the best I can.
Chief, thank you for what you guys do and the presentation. I think, look, so much of what we're dealing with now is just this realm of fear and chaos, and it's a management style, and it creates knockdown effects for us as well. I think the way to overcome that is knowledge and access to learning. And thank you, Madam Supervisor, for arranging to have the statement read out in Spanish today, because I think, in these cases, translation into Spanish is critically important. And so, I know I'm working with the Anti-Bias Task Force to kind of make recommendations to the town as a whole as to where we should be translating more critical documents like this and others into Spanish. Chief, in your department as a whole, interactions with the Spanish-speaking community, where people don't have the ability to speak English, can you just talk a little bit about what translation services are available to people in those situations and how you can direct them to get the right guidance they might need in these situations?
Yeah, sure. So we have 2 civilian employees. We have a public safety dispatcher, and we have 4 police officers who are all fluent in Spanish and capable of translation. We do everything we can in every circumstance to have a physical body present to translate for someone so that there's an ease and convenience in translation. Short of that, if that can't be worked out, we have what's called the language line service, where we dial into a service and they translate for us, and it's all recorded, and they're very professional, and it's been a very helpful service when we can't get a physical translator in front of us. We've had very few complaints from the public about a lack of ability to have their voice heard through translation proceedings. We always, if anybody is a little uncomfortable and maybe more comfortable speaking in Spanish than English, that just speak to a supervisor or the officer on the scene and request that they get you a translator. And we do everything we can to make sure that that happens as easily and seamlessly as possible.
Thank you. And the other piece, and I remember, because I think I was on the police reform committee with you back in like 18. Sure. I mean, I know back then we discussed that one of the challenges was getting community members from the Latino community into the police force has been challenging with civil service and other requirements. Have the numbers in the police force kind of gone up a little bit? Are we still facing those challenges? And are there changes you'd like to see from civil service to help us address that?
They've made several changes in having a Spanish-speaking eligible list, and we do have 3 officers in the current police academy class that will be graduating in March who are Spanish-speaking. So out of the last 6 in the academy, 3 speak Spanish, and out of the last 7 hires, 3 out of 7 are Spanish-speaking. So that's a positive trend for us. And the more officers in uniform who do speak Spanish, the better. Civil service seems to be making strides in that direction, but there's still a lot of challenges in recruitment, and there's a lot of challenges in the qualifications process to get through for hiring as a police officer.
And in the past, has the department ever worked to hand out informational flyers to those it has interactions with? You know, for example, giving information comparable to the New York State's giving on, you know, what to do in an ICE situation, who to contact, what numbers you can call, et cetera?
No.
Okay.
No. We give out a lot of flyers in English and Spanish and on crime victims, on fraud prevention, on protecting your valuables, on how to handle a traffic stop. So we do a lot of public information and bridge building with the community in both English and Spanish, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have any questions for the chief?
I don't have questions. I just sort of have comments on there. I think some of the comments come back to even times where we were in Montauk at a debate even then too. My father is an immigrant too, you know, came over on a freighter. That's well documented on there then too. And the question came up, how do you treat immigrants? And as Justice Irace said, very simply with compassion and empathy then too. I completely do not agree with the executive order and the way and the reasoning for it then too. The backbone of our entire democracy and community is about being that melting pot of individuals that are looking for a better life. There's a lot of people here, whatever reasons, that are running away from a very terrible situation. Situations that fortunately my father put me in a place not to have to deal with that, but have to be a person and be allowed to be able to be a person to be able to pass information along securely and supportively through this seat. I hope he's proud of me for doing that. I think this is a very fluid situation. Again, as I mentioned, I disagree with, but I think the best thing we can do right now as the meetings are unfolding right now with the levels of outreach within the school districts, advocacy groups, is to continue this open dialogue and come back, and what we can do is update positioning, information resources, as Tom is mentioning then too. This is our pulpit might be the wrong word. This is our dais, and this is where we can get that information out to the general public as fast and as soon as possible. And I think that is what is something that is exactly what the town has to do in the forward weeks. So I look forward to doing that more and hearing specifically about the school systems then too.
We have plans to work with our school resource officers and DARE officers and a couple of our young Spanish-speaking officers to host some question and answer sessions and, you know, just continue to be available and be as forthcoming as we can within the schools.
And I know I've stated this before. Tom mentions one of the individuals that is actually Spanish-speaking in the police academy with you was a former employee of my wife's. She is fantastic, and she will serve the township fantastically in the role as a female police officer, Spanish speaking. I'm guaranteeing the community on that one because she does everything so well.
It's great.
I look forward to having her out there.
Thank you, Chief, for coming here today, and I thank everyone in the community for joining us and speaking on behalf of our neighbors. I can't express the rage that I feel inside about what's happening to our country. And as someone who also stood up and took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the protections that it affords to everyone in this country, I feel ashamed to be sitting here as someone who took that oath. I think the very first message that we wanted to get across to the community is that our police department are not agents of ICE. And I think that message was so important when we spoke about, in this short time period, in this fluid situation, what's the first thing that we want to assure people of? And that is that our police department are not agents of ICE. And I think the statement by the supervisor and Chief Sarlo has made that quite clear. So that's the number one statement. After this, I think what's critical for everyone is that we make sure that we talk to advocacy groups, the immigration attorneys, people who know the information much better than any of us do sitting here. Because any advice that we give out to people or to any place where we direct people for information has to be 100% accurate. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for, oh, I thought this, I thought this. I wanted to have an answer for you today. that is going to put people's lives in danger and families in dangers. And I share the sadness of families trying to figure out what they can do to protect their children and to protect themselves. So I want to assure everyone that this is the beginning of a conversation. It's not a one and done statement, okay, we did our job, let's move on. We're as invested, we're your neighbors, and we're with you. And we're invested in the safety of our neighbors and our community and everyone that contributes to our community as everyone else is. And I think the only way that we can stand up for this is if we do it as united community. So thank you.
Steve, we can have a conversation later. This is not.
No one is saying exactly what ICE can do. Our police department is not a force of ICE. Does ICE need a warrant to take someone off the street?
Yes.
That's what I want.
Okay, so we'll have the.
What does our police department do if they don't have a warrant?
We'll have the chief answer that.
As of right now, we cannot interfere with federal enforcement actions. It is not the role of local law enforcement to interfere in federal law enforcement. That's where the immigration attorneys come in. But you have to understand, I think in my 12 years as police chief, I think I've seen maybe 2 people taken out of arraignment. And I know of about 8 to 10 times where in the 2017-18 range where ICE agents came into town and picked up people on federal warrants. I haven't seen an ICE agent in this town in can't tell you how long. So
They're here now.
excuse me. This can't be a public immigration forum for a question and answer on every policy that's coming down. I've tried to be as transparent and clear as I possibly can. You have to understand, you see what I'm wearing here? People who wear this and put this on don't interfere with other people who wear this and put this on, because then people die. Right? You don't step in front of an immigration enforcement officer in uniform with a gun and a badge who's taking his action. That's for attorneys to get involved in, and that is for policies and procedures through the state to get involved in.
Can I call you if somebody comes to my door and takes somebody out of my home?
All we will do is make a report. We're not going to interfere. It's not possible. It's federal law. You don't interfere with a federal law enforcement officer. You know, we do everything we can, and we're trying to be as transparent and open and honest as we can here. These aren't left and right decisions made by the police department. These are policies passed down from the state that municipal law enforcement agencies are required to follow. Okay? So this is a matter of real practical policy decisions that are made and passed down. I don't sit here as a chief of police and say, you know what, I think I'm going to do this. What I do is I follow state rules and guidelines and policies, as all East End law enforcement does. And I cannot speak, as I've said several times, to what changes are going to be made in federal process and how they are going to go about impacting changes in what they do. I can't speak to that. Haven't been notified of that. Don't know anything about it. All I do know is what we do and how we interact and what we're required to do. The only way any of my officers could ever enforce federal immigration law is if they were deputized. And the town board would not allow any of our officers to be deputized. The only time we've ever had officers deputized is when they've been assigned as a member of a task force for sex trafficking, for child trafficking, for fentanyl trafficking, for weapons trafficking. And I think anybody in this room would want us to be deputized for that purpose. So I'm hesitant to take any further steps to stop that from happening, because I don't want our community to become a safe haven for people who are willing to traffic drugs and guns and sex people into our community. So there's a balancing act we have to strike there. And I hope everyone understands that and realizes that's where we draw the line. And that's why the board has been very supportive of our efforts, and we're open and communicating about how we can do this moving forward. I'll send an officer to your home and I'll take a report, and we'll find out where that person's being taken to, and we'll work with you to make sure you know how to go about walking through that process. And we take a police report just as if it were a civil dispute, that we don't enforce civil law, but you call us to your house to make a report. We'll take the report. We'll communicate as best we can. We'll provide you the services and resources that we can. We can't interfere. And I just hope everyone understands the delicate position local law enforcement is put in that scenario. And again, our main focus is that repeat violent, dangerous offender who's in our community who's wanted for removal. I have a duty to all of you as well. And if I don't work to cooperate to make sure that that person sees justice, regardless if they're removed or not, but actually has to answer for their warrant, then I'm not doing my job to protect the whole community at large either. And I think that's a really important message I want to make sure that everyone understands. Okay? The last thing I want to do is create some sort of policy that interferes with one of those people who does something like that, doing it again to someone else in our community. And I have a duty and responsibility for that. Okay?
So this is what I'm saying, in the search for the immediate answer, the ability to stand up with a giant sign and say, no, we're not going to let you, we're not going to stop you. We could put people's lives at risk. We could encourage the family separation that we're all trying to stop. So this is going to be a situation where we're going to need all of the assets in our community. The police department's going to have their role. We have our role. The immigration lawyers and attorneys and advocacy groups, we all need to come together. We all need to make sure any information that we're giving out to people is absolutely correct. People's lives depend on it.
So, Ian, did you want
Yeah, I just thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kathy, for your statement and for everybody who spoke here today. I share the sentiments. I understand there's a lot of fear, confusion, unknown, and I have a great deal of sympathy for people, for everybody going through that. I have a great deal of respect for Mike Sarlo and the police department here, and I appreciate your comments. I think it's not their duty, desire, or policy to be federal immigration agents. It's just not what they do. It's not what they've ever done. I'm happy to hear that there have been no changes. I think we all have to recognize we don't know what's coming, and we should be prepared to address new information, as I know that the police department will be as it becomes available. At the same time, you're obligated to enforce federal criminal warrants. And again, I'm comforted to hear that there has not been a change in that, knowing that situation might change at any time. You know, I'm really sympathetic to children and kids, and I think the schools are going to be very important here. Getting information out so people know their rights, their actual rights. I think Kate brings up a really good point here, which is we don't want to overpromise. As much as we can all sympathize and want to do everything within our power, we only have the power that we have, and it's important that the information we spread is 100% factual and helpful. So I want to give all the comfort I can to people who fear, especially kids who, you know, are not responsible for their immigration status or their families and fear separation. That, you know, that's heartbreaking to hear those concerns, and they're real concerns. But at the same time, we can't just say, oh, we're going to make sure that that won't happen unless we're absolutely sure of what their rights are and what our powers are to be able to do that. The last thing I just want to say on a personal, human level, you know, there's so many people who contribute to our community. And when you're volunteering alongside somebody, or somebody is, you know, providing a service to you and your neighbors, I don't ever think about what's their immigration status. And I'm not gonna change that in terms of what I think the value that each individual member brings to the community. So it's a, you know, it's a troubling time. There's a lot of confusion out there. I think that we will continue to you know, gather information, spread it, and address anything new that comes down the pike. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody out there who spoke. Very, very sympathetic, and particularly I want to thank Mike Sarlo and the police department for, I think, handling this confusing time very professionally by following the law and also being very, very respectful to everybody in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to make two comments. One is, I know that there was a caller that made you know, you folks don't have the statement in front of you. And I did think it was important, having read statements from other communities, that we actually use the language and see the language that was in the executive order. That was important to me, because it's really alarming. And I felt that it set the context so that the community could understand, what our position was as we move forward. And as my colleagues, who I'm so proud of, have said, this is really fluid. We're going to be on this. We are in the process of interviewing an immigration attorney. The town is looking to hire an immigration attorney to advise us so that we, it's critical, we've said it, that we give out correct information and that we understand our rights so that we can help, our neighbors and our immigrant community. Larry?
I'd like to suggest, based on the fact that we have existing within our community various citizens advisory committees based on habits and the issues, we have an anti-bias task force that represents the town, but is not very active. That, in fact, we create a advisory committee on that Spanish American Latino community. It's a segment of our community which is more significant in numbers than some of our CSC.
Yeah. So if I could just say that, I was on the board during the first Trump administration. We had a Latino community committee, and quite frankly, folks were not comfortable coming to town hall for a meeting. And, I remember when, folks were getting together, organizations banded together. It was OLA, it was the immigration attorneys, it was the clergy who have a meeting coming up. I believe it's February 19th at St. Luke's. We did it in a church because a church was a safe place, but that's not true anymore. So it's, we're meeting on Monday with the school superintendents, but what I'm hearing from the schools and what I'm hearing from our own Human Services Department, because they get inquiries all the time from, members of our community. We don't look at, your immigration status or what box you check, whether you're a citizen or not. When we provide meals and senior transportation and wellness programs, but their lines have gone dead. People are not calling, right? So I think, we all want to, and maybe this is a good for us to get together and to have these conversations. But the folks that are directly infected are going straight home, if they're even going to work in school. So, I think we need to all come together and figure out a plan and work together, whether it's,
We should open the dialogue. I think things have changed since the last time. I've noticed more Latino people here talking today than I have in any other meeting that I've seen, that I've attended to. I think we have a terrorist organization to deal with, which is the present government and the White House, in my opinion. And I think we have to take unusual means now to be even more vigilant than we ever have been in the history of this country.
Well, I think, I don't want to speak for the board, but I think we're all with you.
Yep.
Because I'm going to speak for the board. We're all with you.
Let's open it up, and if we have to meet at somebody's house for the first meeting and have 3 people there, I'm for that.
Okay. Sounds good.
And let's remember that we also need
Community also that I would like to see represented on the board.
Agreed.
We also need to also remember that there are leaders in the Latino community that we need to include and make sure are giving guidance to us as well.
Right. So we're going to.
Yeah, so Larry, just talking to the anti-bias task force, our focus for the last 6 months has really been on, what critical documents like this do we need to be translating into Spanish for the Latino community? I think the schools do an excellent job with that. They have front office staff, et cetera. We've been looking by department while we have those kind of resources. We've been also doing a lot of work. What are our public-facing documents? And then working with the committee to say, what is an urgent need to get translated, because truthfully, we have online translation capabilities. We've run tests with them. They're not fantastic. It needs human translation for it to be understandable, but that requires resources and planning. So that's really where the anti-bias task force is looking right now.
You have an anti-bias task force.
Right.
I think the town board should charge that task force specifically to be more involved in this issue.
Okay.
I agree with that.
We will have that conversation. I see a few hands up. I'm going to let folks speak because this is an important issue. But thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll stay.
The woman in the back, if you want to come up to the podium, please. And then David, if you want to go next. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yasmin Marin, and I represent my community church, who is Bani Church. And I think the old churches that we have a Spanish-speaking people. I have a question. What legal rights do churches have to protect individuals from being detained or questioned by authorities on their premises? That's a question from our community. What should we do as a leaders, or what? We don't know. So it's just that question.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you.
David?
Just a comment that I saw online.
You're going to need to come up here.
Maybe bend that microphone a little bit. Could you just tip that microphone towards you, David? Thank you.
David Hillman, Amagansett. This is for Chief Sarlo. I just saw this online. Well, the statement is being read in Spanish, and I had nothing else to do. And this is from the New York Post, that Executive Bruce Blakeman was expected to announce on Tuesday that police in the county, Nassau County, will receive federal authority to help arrest and deport illegal criminal migrants. And within the context of that, it goes on to talk about designating 10 detectives to assist ICE. Have you or anybody heard of any similar action to be taken in Suffolk County? And if it did, with Suffolk County Police, how would that relate to our local town police?
That we are not. I can't speak for what the county executive or the chief of department of Suffolk County Police would do. I heard of it.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen here. Because, and they're receiving federal funding to do it.
I'm sure.
Steve, come up to the podium, please.
Ferguson.
Steve Ferguson, Amagansett. Maybe it's only me, but I am not clear, Chief Saul. In order for ICE to take someone off the street, what do they need?
You don't interfere in their process.
No, not you. So what does the federal government need? Can they just walk and take anyone off the street? Do they need some kind of a warrant? I'm in the dark on all this. I think people should know.
The best I can do to answer that question is detentions usually require probable cause that a crime has been committed. So I can defer to, you can have some conversations with some of the immigration attorneys, but in general, if federal authorities take someone into custody, it's based off of a federal warrant. And that's usually involves a criminal offense. They do have some civil capabilities that if there are immigration actions that are deemed for removal, they have authority to do some civil actions. We do not. We never would, and we never do. So I don't work for ICE. I've never worked directly with ICE. I don't know what any of these executive orders have changed or done to their authorities in their ability to enforce, but one would think they would have to have some probable cause that something that rises to the level of a crime for removal would have to be in
And then you would
place.
need a definition of a crime.
Typically, when we've heard that some people have been taken in by ICE, they go into federal detention facility and appear before a judge. And that's where the immigration attorneys get involved with representing them at hearings. So that's all I have.
Yeah. My only suggestion is, and I'm with all you people, is if it's possible, I'm not saying it is possible, just to get some definitions out into the public. I mean, so we know what we're dealing with. That's my only recommendation.
And that's why we're looking to hire, and that's why we're looking to hire an immigration attorney, because this is also moving so quickly.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And the rules are being rewritten by the second.
I know. Okay, thanks.
Prudence. And then it's going to be a wrap, folks, because we've got some other business we need to take care of.
First of all, Mike, thank you. Thank you very much. I admire the way you run your business. My question to you was, I live and work with people who are Hispanic. And at this point, they have been telling me that there was ICE in the trailer park 10 days ago for 3 days. There is ICE wandering, people with ICE shirts are wandering around. I don't know the truth of that because, frankly, I really don't want to know the truth of that. It's too upsetting to me. I'm old. It bothers me. But I want to know if somebody comes to my door and bangs on my door and says, open your door, and doesn't have a warrant, because I'll be honest with you, the way this is going down, it sucks. There is no law, there's no rhyme or reason. There is no way of having people demonstrate who they are. My husband's an 82-year-old Marine, as you may know. He carries ID on him all the time, and they threw that away in New Jersey. They threw the ID away of the military man and put him in the truck. Now, this is not the way you run your business, in my estimation. So I want to know if somebody comes to my door without a warrant for a criminal offense and takes somebody out of my house kicking and screaming with their 10-year-old American child, can I call you and have you say, I'll look into it, thank you? Because at this point, we don't feel what we can really do in these circumstances with these people we know and love. And there is no rhyme or reason. What happened in New York was absolutely cruel and ridiculous. And they ended up releasing half of those people. You take a 10-year-old kid into a wagon and accuse him of crime, he's going to remember that with his mother. So there is no law or rhyme or reason related to the actions that are going down in some of these raids. They're just cruel. And so I want to know, can I pick up the phone and say, Mike, we have a problem? And you would look into that. And you said you would. So I'm grateful for that. But that's what's going on around the country right now. And it's frightening to all of us, I believe. So thank you for what you do, and I hope I never have to call you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prudence.
Thank you, Prudence.
All right. Carl, make it quick.
Bill, I referred to some materials. I just want to have a very responsive portion from these materials put out from the Immigrant Defense Project in the Know Your Rights section. There's the portion that says, do I have to let ICE into my home? And I'll read from it, not unless they have a warrant signed by a judge giving them authorization to search or arrest someone at your address. A warrant signed by ICE is not enough to allow them to enter without your permission. In most cases, ICE does not have the right type of warrant and can only enter if you consent. So it starts with that. And, we discussed some of these materials last night. I know you have them. I know we have them. And the chief spoke about some of these things. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of information out there. I can't summarize all of it here. And this isn't, my advice. This is stuff that's out there that I'm just reporting is out there to help everyone educate our friends, educate our neighbors. Thanks for giving me a little extra time. I hope that helps.
We have to vet everything.
So, Larry, the state is working on a form that they're releasing, and in all honesty, I think that will be what we release. It has a lot of the information that Kyle just referenced, but in order for us to protect the town, having the state document is a smart way to go about that. And that is in the production. I've seen no drafts, but it's getting translated as we speak.
Okay.
Our state organizations, OCFS is together, information they've sent to all of their child.
Tim, can you just come to that? Is there an organization website?
Yes, could you give us that
Just like to
information?
say that our state organization, OCSF, working with their law branch, has given out information to all child care centers, giving them information about what their centers can do if federal agents show up on their front door, and information to give parents about what they can do if they're show up at their front doors.
Right. And I imagine you've distributed far and wide to your.
Yes, we have. We've sent that to our parents. I believe it's on our website now, too.
Okay. Well, that's good for folks.
There are a lot
to
of,
know.
to
That's
go
the
back
Eleanor
to what the
Whitmore Early
community said.
Childhood Center website.
Yes, and then also, there's a lot of community members meeting together in homes, talking about this. That's who I shared the letter with you today with, is our group that's been meeting regularly and has been also in communication with supervisors in the village, trying to get as much good information as we can to get out to our community members and our families.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, folks, well, thank you for joining us today. We're going to take a minute break, Jason, as the room clears.
Okay.
And then Diane is going to do her presentation.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Don't announce it.
I heard him say that about some boys that wanted to go date your daughter too. I know.
Of course you are. I love your description of heartsick, Prudence.
Yeah, you want to come to the next meeting?
Heartsick.
Okay. I'll put you on. Yeah. All right, we'll get you in.
You want a cough drop?
I have one in my mouth. It's just the leftover. Like I said, I'm not going to speak long on my memo.
Yeah, come on. All right, Jason, we're going to get started.
Oh, God.
Hey, nice headband.
All right, so now our second topic is the Human Services Department overview with our Human Services Director, Diane Patrizio.
Hi, good morning, Supervisor and Town Board members.
Just want to give it a sec, Diane.
Yeah, this isn't the first time the room has cleared before I went on, so. I'm here to report on the Human Services Department. And, hi. Oh, hi, thanks for staying. Okay. So I guess I'll just start?
Please.
All right. Okay, the Human Services Department, a commitment to all town residents. The mission of the Human Services Department is to support with dignity and respect children, adults, and families to expand opportunities and enhance lives. Our vision is to improve the quality of life for those we serve, and our values are integrity, collaboration, innovation, humanity, inclusion, and teamwork. I'm going to highlight the range of services that are offered. What you see here is a picture of Mary Curl's 100th birthday, but she is now 101. I'm going to cover demographics and increasing demand, the services that are in demand, the limitations of our current senior center, provide information about the Center for Modern Aging and Human Services and our vision for the future. There are a range of services offered in the Human Services Department. One of our valuable employees was Liliana Rodriguez, who just got up and spoke. So while we have the senior nutrition program, wellness programs, the residential repair program, senior transportation services, along with a senior shopping program, we have an in-home services program. We offer mental health services, Hispanic outreach, emergency assistance for special needs, and social and recreational activities. That photo here was an intergenerational game day that we had with students from spring school. On this slide, I wanted to highlight the human services staff because I don't think that everyone knows that, when fully staffed, we're a staff of 25 people. And, it ranges from our associate administrator, our case manager. We have 2 full-time maintenance mechanics, an account clerk. The nutrition program has a supervisor, an assistant center manager, along with a cook, 3 assistant cooks, and 2 food service workers. There's a community service worker. The position's vacant right now, but we're looking for one. 2 homemakers, senior citizen bus supervisors, 5 minibus drivers when we're fully staffed. We just hired 2 new drivers, so we're very excited. A part-time office assistant, because our previous supervisor from the transportation program retired, and we begged her to come back part-time. We have a senior citizens club leader, which has really made a difference in our activities and programs. And I'm going to go in a little more detail about each program. The senior nutrition program. Our congregate meal program provides a midday meal served at 12 p.m. We serve nutritious meals. There are social connections, engaging conversations, nutritional education. We promote active lifestyles. And if you're unable to attend our congregate meal program, there is a grab and go, and you could pick up 5 frozen meals on Tuesday or Wednesday each week. And in 2023, 33,105 meals were served. And I believe now there is a short video. Right, or no?
Of the video.
Oh, guess what? I sent it as a PDF, so I messed that up. I'm really sorry.
But that was Halloween.
It was Halloween.
Board
and it
members
was a
go
lovely.
over and we're put in the hot seat where we have to judge the costumes.
I did not do that intentionally because I didn't want to see myself in a video, but okay. The next slide is about our wellness 60+ programs. We recently added Zumba, and Leah is a dynamo, and it's really become a new and exciting program on Monday mornings and Friday mornings. We're seeing a lot of new people come in. We have knitting and Marjan. The osteoporosis prevention class is with a partnership that we have with the YMCA. So the instructor is from there. The Healing Circle is a partnership that we have with Stony Brook Southampton Hospital's Wellness Initiative. The blood pressure screening has been going on since before I came here, and that's provided by the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation. We have chair yoga, bingo. There's a film club. A large TV was just donated, so that's pretty happening these days. We now have senior karate, and Oscar Giles is teaching that. There's bridge, meditation, qigong, arts and crafts, which we're working on increasing. And we have a tech class, which is a question and answer class, very basic. And a chair yoga on Friday afternoon. And we also have functional fitness, which is also part of the Stony Brook Southampton Wellness. Some of our classes also take place in Montauk as part of their nutrition program. We offer wellness at Ashwag Hall from September through May. Right now, we have 2 classes on Wednesday, Qigong and osteoporosis and prevention. I do have to say we started Ashwag Hall because many people didn't want to come, or not many, some people did not want to come to the senior center. But I've seen a real change because it's gotten so more active there. I see the numbers going down at Ashwag Hall and the numbers going up at the center. Our seniors transportation and shopping program, services available to senior citizens with no access to other means of transportation and residents who are disabled and unable to drive and have no access to other transportation for essential services. And essential services are medical appointments, food shopping, in addition to transportation to town programs. Services available door to door, and they're provided for scheduled appointments that are not emergencies. We also have a senior shopping assistance program, and in this program, we provide grocery shopping to people 60 and over. The town staff will do the shopping for you. Orders are taken over the phone or in person, and groceries are delivered right to your door. And we could offer assistance unpacking the groceries. And we do have staff that could accompany a senior if they needed someone to be with them, if they preferred to shop on their own.
This was a more recent grant that we got in the last few years.
You know, it came out of COVID, you know, it was something new that we started up. The residential repair program is where we offer minor residential repair to assist senior citizen households with repair that do not require the skills of a licensed craftsman. I selected this photo out of many that Isaac posed for. There is no fee for this service. Our recipients are given the opportunity to make voluntary contributions to the program, and the recipient does pay for materials.
So this would be, and there's no income qualification for this.
No.
So you just have to be 60 or older. So
Right.
if somebody needed a grab bar put in their bathroom, or they had a leak in the kitchen and one wall needed to be painted, that
Right. Yes.
Those kinds of things could be done.
Exactly.
An air conditioner in or out of a window kind of thing.
Yes. Now, the in-home services program, where we go in and offer light housekeeping, run errands, shop for homebound seniors, that does have a fee, but it's on a sliding scale based on income. And most of our seniors don't have to pay even the basic fee. The assessment and case management are provided by Suffolk County Office for the Aging caseworkers.
So they'll go into the home and do an
Yes.
evaluation.
They come out regularly, sometimes spend some time at our office to, you know, discuss with the coordinator of this program, who is Nicole, you know, what's going on with the homemakers. Regarding mental health services, they're coordinated through a cooperative agreement between the town and Family Service League. Referrals are immediately made to Family Service League with regular follow-up. The referrals and follow-ups ensure that residents receive access to the needed outpatient services, and Family Service League provides a broad range of outpatient mental health services. We support residents with case management and outreach. Through case management, residents gain access to vital entitlement services such as Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, HEAP, and SNAP. And our Spanish outreach program ensures that services are accessible to all community members. And actually today, well, it might be over now, we're having our first Tai Chi that we're doing with Ola, and it's in Spanish, so for seniors 60 and over. Our emergency assistance for special needs, we maintain a registry for residents with special needs. We have a computerized system, and any town residents who need to receive evacuation and shelter assistance during natural disasters like hurricanes or severe flooding can be on this. It's a free and voluntary registration. The information provided is used only by emergency personnel to ensure safe and timely evacuation. We update this annually, and you know, even if there's a snowstorm coming, we'll take it out and call just to make sure people don't need us to pick up their medication beforehand or anything like that.
You coordinate with the local fire departments, don't you?
Well, we
list?
provide it. Yeah, we work with Bruce, and yes. And you know, remember during COVID, we were calling thousands of people regularly. The Human Services Department also provides support for local not-for-profit providers with the human services grant funding that the town offers. And so we work very closely with all these grantees, and we provide information regarding their services, and we also refer people to their agencies. The youth grants that the town provides, our partners are Eleanor Whitmore Early Childhood Center, Project Most, the Neo-Political Cowgirls, our fabulous variety show is a new grantee, the Montauk Youth Association, I Try, the Retreat, Ruta 27, Senior Nutrition and Services grants are the Montauk Senior Nutrition Program, East Hampton Meals on Wheels, Retired Volunteer Program, RSVP, and Stony Brook Southampton Hospital Wellness Initiative. Mental health and substance abuse counseling grantees include Family Service League's East Hampton Mental Health Clinic, the South Fork Behavioral Health Initiative, Phoenix House of Long Island Incorporated, their outpatient program, and Community Council. The health services grantees are East End Hospice and Fighting Chance, and grants are given to Springs Food Pantry and the Montauk Food Pantry.
East Hampton Food Pantry actually operates here on
exactly.
Our town campus.
Right, there are other grants the town does. These are just the ones that we kind of administer. Demographics and the increasing demand. The senior population in East Hampton has increased by 72% from 2000 to 2020. And some of us here are part of that, right?
Are you looking at me?
Seniors aged 60 plus now make up over 32% of the town's population. And nationally, the 65 plus population is projected to increase by 47% by 2050. And more older adults are living outside of nursing homes, further increasing the demand for community-based services. And I want to be a little more detailed on that. Of the more than 55.8 million elderly adults, 65 or older in the US, 1.3 million live in nursing homes, and that only represents 2.3% of the elderly population. So we're not all ending up in nursing homes. That's
we want to age in place.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to do. On this page, I have our key performance indicators, and there's a lot of data in there, but I think what you can see is if with our congregate meals and our grab-and-go meals, our numbers really went up in 2024, and my projected 2025 is too low. I think that's going to keep growing, as will our participants. I believe the same regarding seniors that are transported, and also our wellness participants have grown. I think we see that in everything here. The one where it went down was with Ashwag Hall, and when I put this together, I realized that. The limitations of our current senior center, the building is over 100 years old. The kitchen is undersized, and dining areas are cramped for large groups. There is no dedicated space for wellness programs, social activities, or educational workshops. And the administrative staff is housed in a trailer across from the senior center, which is far from an ideal situation. Not that everybody always wants me around there, but you know. The Center for Modern Aging and Human Services will be a new 22,000 square foot facility, which will accommodate the growing need for our services. It includes an additional 10,000 square feet with dedicated wings for nutrition, wellness, arts, social activities, and the Human Services Department, which really is all of us. So, it includes an administrative office for East Hampton Meals on Wheels. It will be an all-electric, sustainable building to meet the future needs and promote green energy, and it's designed to be a welcoming space for seniors to connect, learn, and thrive. It's a vision for the future. The new center will serve as a hub for critical services, offering comfort, resources, and opportunities for seniors. It will provide a sense of community, well-being, and support for families and caregivers. The town will be And the fact that the town's investing in this new facility ensures that East Hampton will be prepared for the future with growing services and a caring environment for our aging population. Thanks.
Great job.
So do folks have questions? for
Yeah, sure.
Diane?
Well, firstly, thank you, Diane. I know
Thank
a lot
you.
of work went into this, and look, I'm going to say this because I get to see you a bit. The amount of work you and your department does is phenomenal. You know, you work across a variety of pieces to make it happen, and you do make it happen. So thank you.
We appreciate that.
You know, one question I do have, and I think this is just for the public as much as anything else, we talk about seniors, 60 plus. Like there are some people who are 60 plus out there who have zero need of any support. There are some who need incredible amounts of support. Same even with people in their 80s. But could you kind of just give some, it doesn't have to be actual data, but just some guidance, like of the users of the current senior center, what sort of age profile are we looking at? And does that vary with the programs we're offering, et cetera?
Well, I happen to have some information for you, Tom. Okay, you know, I was thinking about this because I can give you real specific details regarding who participates in our nutrition program, but I'm not sure I have that. Well, I don't have the age data on the wellness, and I do think that we're going to start collecting that to see, are the people participating in the wellness activities, are their ages different? Out of the 335 participants that are currently part of the nutrition program, from 60 to 69, it's 19%, which are 62 people. From 70 to 79, it's 36%, so that's 119. From 80 to 89, it's 34%, which would be 111 people. From 90 to 99, it's 12%, which is pretty good, and that's 38 people. And believe it or not, we have some people 100 plus, that would be 5 people, and that's 0.05%. So you're right. I mean, our people are mostly like 70 to 89 in there, because a lot of us in our 60s are still working.
Right, exactly. So just interesting in terms of services that we're offering, where the need is with the age, and how we provide those services accordingly. So, I mean, that also might present opportunity too, as to look, are there other programs people in their 60s are interested in as we look at this? But thank you. But just keep up the amazing work. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate what you do.
Thanks, Tom.
I also think age is a state of mind, right?
Right.
Because you've got folks that are, 70 that are, that could give you a run for your money.
I know. Listen,
you know what I mean?
I know 16-year-olds who are like 70-year-olds. I mean, totally.
Yeah, our osteoporosis instructor, right? You came to the party.
Yeah.
She's going to try to, well, maybe I shouldn't say.
I think it's hard to measure to the ripple effect of when you give services to a single person, how that ripples throughout their entire family, and the people that care for them, and how it helps them in their lives, working people, to be able to make sure that there's care and services for people in need too. So it's hard to quantify how much further out that goes than just the individual person that's receiving directly the service. I think there's an indirect impact as well across the community. The other thing I just wanted to say is every one of these numbers and data points, and this is a connection between people in our community with each other. So, we tend to talk about, this program, that program, but inside those words are people getting up every day and having human contact with each other that may be otherwise isolated and unable to be able to have the necessary human activity of friendship, of conversation that we all crave.
Thanks. I agree. We make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, I would just reiterate, thank you for what you do. I was lucky enough to be there for Halloween, and despite the fact that building clearly needs an upgrade, I was really impressed with the production quality, sort of the positive.
Michelle went all out this year.
Yeah, no,
it
was really, really well done.
Yeah, no,
and
she did it.
It was very sort of joyful.
Yes.
So thank you. It was really nice to see firsthand and a special occasion.
I'm just waiting for the next chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And it's interesting you bring that up, because I don't think I've seen, a slide that's got your staff on it before. You have it on page 5.
Right.
You don't have to put it up, Patrick, but you do 25 employees, and they're doing nutrition and wellness and activities and transportation and case management. Did I leave anybody out? Folks have asked with the new center on Abraham's Path, have asked whether we're going to be having to hire more staff. And you want to answer?
No, I think the planning was to continue what we're doing and to grow, of course. But I see, well, we increased the maintenance mechanic. We had a part-time. We have 2 full-time now. We stagger their working hours. So Isaac comes from 5 to 1, and then Tom is there from 8:30 to 4. So we have the day covered. We have talked about doing things longer in the day, but that's the future. I didn't mention how the building is used by the 12-step programs afterwards. We're thinking about doing some things later in the day for seniors that work. If we're cooking dinner, I might need some new people, but no, I think we would be fully staffed.
Or a Tai Chi class for.
What's happening is people keep contacting me. I attended a meeting with Tom with the Art Council, right? And they want to teach some classes, and the knitting club and the bridge. It's really clubs that people are doing themselves. So, and the great part about this building is you can have certain parts closed, and that one.
You mean the new build?
The new building. Yeah, the new building. I'm sorry, that we'd be able to open the activity.
The current building only allows you to do a program at a time.
Yeah, it's really, if the building is being used in the evening, no one else can go in it. Because you walk right into the lunchroom, not into a lobby where then you can go into whatever direction.
No privacy.
Yeah, also, I didn't put in here how we collect walkers and wheelchairs, and people contact us if they need them, so we have a lending closet, and that's something we want to continue. So that's another thing we do. And anyone who has a question, they'll call us and we'll figure out who can help them or try. That's why we're lucky we have all these partners. And I want to thank Patrick for helping me with the presentation and everything.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
That's
thank
a
you.
wrap. Thank you, Diane.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And thank you, Liliana.
Thank you, Liliana.
Okay, so now we're on our third topic, and that is lot size analysis by Hamlet. Kate.
Yes, this is just it's not a presentation per se. I know it's posted on our website, but board members had asked for an analysis of lot size, small lot size in particular by Hamlet. And that's what this document is. I think it's self-explanatory. And you'll see as you go through it that it really backs up the conclusion of the zoning code working group on that most of our town is made up of small lots, contrary to popular opinion. So when we think about impacting impacts on that the formula will create, we also have to, I think, frame it and think about the impacts of entire areas. Because it's not just this lot here or this lot there. So we see the impact on entire neighborhoods. I think folks were talking about it last time of Culloden and some other areas where most of the whole entire section is of small lots. And
do you mind just walking through the table a little bit just to make sure I'm understanding the same way?
Okay, so the residents, so we only went up to A5 because after that it became very scattered, a 1 or a 0, nothing of an impact. So the first top line is the residence districts. So B zone that's what we call 20,000 square foot. A zone is an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres, etc. And these are the residential zoning districts in the town. They don't include the commercial districts. So then if you move down the column, you'll see the first number will be the total of a particular set of lot size. So the first one is up to 5,999 square foot. Across our B zones, there is a total of 424 of those lots. 287 are developed, 137 are undeveloped, and then we take that number and we break it down by hamlet. So obviously it goes through Amagansett, and for the first two numbers, again, the first number is the lots that are developed, vacant lots, and then the totals in each hamlet. And then we go through each lot size up to 12,999 square, I'm sorry, up to 14,999 square foot. And that's the breakdown by hamlet of those lot sizes.
Are these buildable lots? All buildable, or
Yeah.
all buildable, so none of them
Yeah,
are not encumbered by
we took
open
out
space or
we
something?
took out all of the lots that were encumbered by open space or easements.
Sure.
Everything. This is only buildable lots.
A lot of data.
Yeah.
My only question would be, the number, just to put it in reference, because it is surprising how many small lots there are. What about larger lot sizes? Because it looks like we stopped at 15,000, which I know is sort of the theory of concern here. But just for perspective, I wonder how many lots there are.
20,000 square foot lots, B zones and above?
Yeah, just to get an accurate, for me, like an accurate, how many properties there are total. Like we can compare all the small lots to each other, but I don't know if there are many. You kind of give it in the summary.
Yeah, the summary breaks down where we are in terms of lot size. Most of our lots are less than an acre, I think that's basically across the entire town.
50%.
And then my other question is on, and Dave kind of just asked this, and actually I don't necessarily expect there to be a ready answer, but on the very small lots, it's a pretty high number. Are any of those, are those urban renewals that are likely to be merged with, as part of an urban renewal plan, or those are all sort of?
No, these are buildable lots. There's nothing in the chopped up urban renewal lots that were included in this.
Great, well, thank you.
You're welcome. I really don't have anything to add.
Okay. Any other questions for Kate?
Just, I want folks to know, and I was going to do my liaison report, but do we have the notice of public hearing for the formula? As decided, the notice will be, the resolution is on for Thursday, and the public hearing will be on March 6th.
Okay. Thank you for this. I'm going to take some time to really kind of go through it in some more detail. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're up to the wireless code revisions, which was chapter 255 of zoning. And we have here Senior Town Attorney Jake Turner and Assistant Town Attorney Nancy Marshall. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, Board. I was tasked with looking at section 255-141 of the zoning code, specifically how it relates to the application procedure of personal wireless service facilities.
Say that 3 times fast.
So as we saw when we went through the code, that applicants, if there was not a building permit or a quote unquote zoning permit for a property, that was a hard stop for an applicant. This seems inappropriate given that the building department currently processes applications if a property does not have the requisite building permit for a structure or certificate of occupancy. So what we have done is created a pathway for an applicant if there is not the requisite building permit or certificate of occupancy that allows the town to process the application. Further, what it does is allows the planning or building departments to determine whether or not an application should be accepted. Further, what we've done is we've built in an appeals process so that an applicant can challenge that determination. We've listed certain factors to determine whether or not an application should be accepted or not accepted. And if the application is not accepted based upon the determination of the building department or planning department, then the applicant can go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief. That's the major thing. However, as we were looking at this, the planning department found 2 other minor errors that needed to be corrected. One is that the Architectural Review Board reviews, not approves that application. And second, one of the personal wireless service facilities was incorrectly labeled as a tier 2 when it should be a tier 3.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to Nancy and Jacob. I think this is very, very helpful. I was in the meeting when sort of we realized that the code was imperfect. Imagine that. My understanding is that this is sort of is standard type of code language to protect municipalities against, very strong federal laws that dictate timelines and such so that we don't, accidentally start a process that then we have no control over. So I think the intentions are very good, but correcting words that don't exist in our zoning code, like zoning permits, makes sense, or ARB review as opposed to approval. It's just making it more precise. Additionally, I think that we want to retain the protections that this offered the town so that we have control over development, particularly with cell towers, but also not be handcuffed so that we can't allow applications to proceed by changing that, shall to may. So I think this is well done, well constructed, so the town maintains control and has leeway to allow something to proceed or not while not being fully dictated by the federal guidelines. So I'm supportive of it, and I always appreciate attempts to make our code more precise and clear about what we're trying to do.
Likewise, I echo those sentiments. I mean, I think it adjusts the language to your point to give us options that we didn't previously had. So I'm supportive of this. Thank you.
Well, it was an antiquated code at that time.
Yeah.
We're adjusting it to what works best now. Next steps are?
Next steps will be the notice of the public hearing.
Can we have
then if
a notice potentially on for Thursday, public hearing on the 6th?
we can do that, right? We can do that.
Great.
I support.
Terrific. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, our last topic today is the Springs Park invasive species test recommendation, and that's, Ian, did you want to set it up?
Yeah, so, when I came in the town board last year, I was the liaison to the Springs Park Committee, which has been a committee that existed for several years. There's a management plan for Springs Park that goes way back, was never fully enacted. So as the liaison to that committee, I just wanted to sort of have the conversation. So long as the committee exists, I wanted to make sure that, we were talking about things that we could do something with or not, but make an informed choice. And so one of the topics of conversation that frequently discussed and also one of the core tenets of the management plan was invasive species removal. As Scott will show you, this used to be sort of an open nursery field and has been overtaken by all sorts of invasive species over the years. And so the debate in those committee meetings was balancing the desire to remove invasive species that might be harming local habitat or local species, while also it became very clear to me that we wanted to preserve the sort of natural feel of the park and not make it an open field like, some other parks are. And so, I suggested, and other people in the committee, I think, there are definitely different opinions, but the idea of doing sort of a test patch here to see, once you remove the invasives, what was truly left, so that we use sort of a light hand to try to, do an environmental benefit here without an aggressive change to the park, and then reevaluate going forward. So I asked Scott to prepare this based on, there's 2 certified arborists in his department. I'm not an expert when it comes to invasive species. His department and his staff are, and so I asked them to prepare sort of a plan of what this might look like, so that anybody listening has an idea of the proposal and what we may or may not do depending on what the board decides.
Great.
Well, you did a great job so far. Are there any questions? Or do you want me to actually go? That's all right. All right, let me just share it to the screen. Okay. So the town did fully adopt the management plan post-public hearing on December 18, 2009. And I'm just going to read 2 excerpts of the goals for the management plan at that time. The primary goal for management plan was of this parcel is to enhance its usefulness while improving accessibility and safety for all members of the community. This can be accomplished at minimal expense to the Community Preservation Fund and the town of East Hampton. The upkeep of existing paths and addition of new trails through the fields will allow for greater use of this unique property and give the people of the town a wonderful recreational area to enjoy for many years to come. The primary recommended improvements were removal of autumn olives. This highly invasive species has become a major problem of the park. Loss of scenic views along with habitat for bluebirds and other ground nesting birds is imminent. Biologists consider invasive species such as these to be one of the 2 greatest threats to native plants and animals, second only to the outright loss of habitat to urban sprawl, agriculture, and industrial development. With the help of volunteers who utilize this park, a massive removal plan should begin in late fall. This is the recommendation then. Obviously, this has already happened. To rid the park of this blight. With the help of these volunteers, this will be an ongoing stewardship responsibility, as the invasives are an ongoing threat. I understand that many are not sure what autumn olive looks like. We've had a lot of questions on that, which is the olive. This is a close-up of that species. These here on either side of this photo are also the olives, which bracket many other portions of trail. It needs consistent cutting back to ensure the trail is not lost. However, this photo shows what happens when you do cut back an autumn olive. This is 1 year's growth. So even every time we cut them back, they have a tendency to grow back in force. So they could grow 5 or 6 feet in a year. Although there are a number of other invasive species like black locust, multiflora rose, and oriental bittersweet, which is doing its best to smother adjoining trees. I don't know if you could see that in this picture, all of these sort of waving vines at the top of this tree are seeking the next tree to invade. The main pervasive threat to the loss of accessibility is the autumn olive. What has been proposed and adopted in the management plan, what our department has been fighting to maintain, and what has been explicitly stated as the primary goal of the management plan, enhance the park's usefulness while improving accessibility and safety for all members of the community, is what we're here to talk about. There are many users who are concerned about any changes to the park, but without intervention, like annual mowing of the reclaimed areas in the back, this is post-mow, a majority of the park would be consumed. You'll note that that is an olive that is just blocking that path. What we're proposing is a restoration area of a half acre to 1 acre in size as a demonstration or test area, removing invasive understory of shrubs and vines. Restoration would include grinding stumps to below grade. Material may be chipped on site and broadcast within the project area. And 30 or 40 existing taller feature trees would be left to provide shade within the project area. Some of the public discourse regarding this type of proposal has expressed concern that the town would clear cut going from what you see on the left of this photo to what you see on the right of the photo. However, one of the goals of this project is to provide the existing trees a better chance of healthy growth. These next couple of slides just show how thick that olive is, and it's inhibiting the trees that are trying to coexist there. They're actually out-competing. Even with no leaves, look how thick this is. So on this next slide, you'll note both large and smaller trees. I think that's probably a cherry and a locust. Are flagged to save. Please also note that removal of olives will not cause the loss of shade, as there currently no access to this block, but there could be. And as Ian alluded to, these are a couple of photos of the nursery. This is just post-acquisition in 2001, or pre-acquisition, excuse me. You'll see they have all of the sort of ground tarping and plastic where they had the rows of trees and shrubs for sale. This is in 2004, where you note there are no olives, or very little to no olives on this property. In 2008, you could sort of see the olives cropping in. And I wish I had a comparison picture of today versus 2008, because you'll note all the olives are now 20 foot tall, and you have no access to this entire area. We have trails that go around it and sort of bisect it, but you have no access to this particular area.
Scott, what's the size of the entire park? Are you talking about an acre, half acre of test area? What's the size of the park?
The fenced-in area where folks enjoy walking with their dogs is 22 acres.
22
the whole park is 40 acres.
Thank you.
So this is an aerial of today. And you'll note this is the area that we were talking about working on. It is full to the rim. If I go back to that 2000, there was nothing. It was sort of meadow. And so, that's how fast these olives grow. It's not just olives, there's other invasive species, but the primary culprit here that we're talking about are the olive. And I just added this last slide, and Neil, chair of the Springs Park Committee, asked about this. Why are you asking for volunteers? Note the dates on these photos. This is November 2009 and December 2009. And this was an opportunity to add these photos and this little note on our website at that time as more of our small success. We had volunteers. We back trucks up, we put chains around those 5-foot-tall olives, and we rip them out by their roots, and we had volunteers that helped spread soil and sand to actually fill in those holes. And this was an opportunity to celebrate our success of our undying enthusiasm. However, after several weeks of pulling and chains and bending over, our backs and our small force were not up to the task. We couldn't outcompete the olive, and so in order to get back to our regular station channel and jobs, we had to abandon the uprooting of all of those olives. So I just put that in there as a reference. I also want to point out that the primary time to actually get in there and do this type of work, actually cut these olives out, grind the stumps below grade, is February, March, probably the best time. That's before all of the ground nesting birds and turtles and rabbits come out for the spring, and so you like to get that type of heavier work done in advance of that occurring. I don't know if we have, if the board were so inclined and you wanted to approve this project, it is possible, but we might not be able to get that done by the end of March. However, this is a project that we can also do in late fall, before, after the birds have sort of started to migrate, and after the turtles. I wrote this term down because I didn't even know it. Turtles don't hibernate; they brumation. So they sort of hunker down in their shells and they're awake the entire winter. They just don't move. They're sort of in a torpid state. So it's the best time to not harm the species that are there. So it's either late fall or I don't even want to call it early spring, sort of the end of winter.
Thank you, Scott. It's obviously Spriggs Park's been on the plate for different reasons a lot recently. I mean, I just want to step this back to invasive species overall, because it's a challenge we're facing across the town generally. Why here? Why is this the best test spot for the town to be doing this? And really, what does the goal look like? Is it something we can implement elsewhere in town?
Well, so when we adopted that management plan in 2009, the overall goal had always been to try to, the goal was to eradicate the olive, but that's simply no longer possible. So what we try to do is control it. And you'll see in this photo right here, these are, I keep calling them paddocks. They're sort of blocks where, the former nursery was. And there were tree lines, sort of windbreaks for those, paddocks or blocks of growing nursery stock. And we mow those right now on an annual basis. That is the only reason why you'll note that there are any sort of clearer, longer sight line areas. So for me, this is a continuation of a goal that, we stood in front of the public and had a public hearing and said, this is what we're going to do. And we didn't complete that task. So for me, for our department, this is an opportunity to move that forward. However, as we alluded to, there is some confusion in the public, and there was concern that we were going to clear cut, which is really not our goal. So when we call it a test, it's basically to, proof of concept that, we're going to save the trees, we're going to save the shade, we're just trying to get rid of this one pesky species. I may do another presentation years from now because, there are other invasives in this park that are a little out of control. The mugwort here, if you go towards the end of summer, is going to be 5 and 6 feet tall. You can't see beyond it. There's many acres of just mugwort alone.
But it is habitat, right? I mean, but
it is
in
habitat.
Cases, mugwort, I know we have it at Ediaca Park as well. And the bird life that exists in there is massive. I mean, so it's not without some benefit to the biodiversity we have going here.
I can't argue that.
Right.
That's true. I mean, nature finds a way, right? Species adapt. It is true.
So we're also seeing that we did the Maloney property, which is a CPF property at Accabonac Harbor. We did an invasive species removal project there in which we removed 3/4 of an acre of bamboo. The species itself, we try to restore and maintain the seed bank. We put in a preventative maintenance over multiple years in which there's mowing in April, I believe, which is the perfect time to mow before shoots come out. What we saw the species start to do is creep out further outside of where our legal boundaries were onto other people, onto other jurisdictions, properties, or other owners' properties. So species do adapt. I think also animals adapt to where they might find more coverage on there. But one thing we need to try to do is to effectively try to find techniques to replicate. We've done it with barberry. That came out of the Nature Preserve Committee up in the Grace Estates, removal of barberry, which is a tedious job. We've done it with bamboo. Russian olive here. We've heard potential plans, for the Benson Reserve, potentially for the Kirk Park Reserve, Park, excuse me, in certain areas that this can happen. This location here, I remember it when it was a tree farm. I used to go there when it was a tree farm. The paddocks were just areas in which there were roadies, cryptos, or all other types of trees.
Right.
Unfortunately, some of the plans that were set forward 15 years ago didn't get set in place, and nature is sort of reclaimed or taken over, but not necessarily in a way that is appropriate or native to what this location was. Whatever means that is, that's long past, but I think this is an opportunity for us to try to see if this expense of time, labor, funding might actually be worthwhile to do further. It shows the public that we're trying, but also in the end, it could be another discussion to see, okay, how did this work? And I think that was part of it. What Kate mentioned earlier was the size of this property. This is a very large public park, 40 acres, 20 acres being used is actually could be used for recreation, open space that we have there. The amount being an acre, I would support, is minimal to what the overall acreage is right now, and I think it would give a maximal test project effect on what can potentially be done in this property. I would prefer doing it this season so we can discuss it, since it's been so highly discussed. If it had to go out to bid, put it out in a short bid form, 2 weeks, maybe we can get this complete, accepted, potentially even by March and moving. So it's just my thoughts on there, but I think I would support the acre. I support the initiative. I support using an acre as a test. And I do, one of the things out of this time was we did on the Maloney property is, if this happens, let's report back to the board. What are the successes of this invasive species removal itself? Then also, what's the effect on the user groups too? We saw that on other projects. I think that would be appropriate in this situation.
I agree with Dave's comments. And look, I think that this is a balance for sure, because I think Tom brings up a point, which is sometimes wildlife will live in non-native species. But I think, as you pointed out, autumn olive is one of the biggest risks towards losing natural habitat and therefore native species. So, I don't think this is as simple as we want vegetation or we don't. I do want to reiterate that I think a lot of the current park users feel very strongly that this should be a more natural feeling place and not a traditional dog park that's an open field. And I would like to maintain that, but I don't think the way to successfully maintain that over the long run is to let really aggressive invasives run wild. Like Dave points out, bamboo, autumn olives are very similar. And I think eventually we're going to lose access entirely if we let that. And just look at the aerials. I remember this park not going back to 2004, but I remember being much, much more open. And so I don't think that it's sustainable to do nothing and expect there to still be access. And the goal, I would support the 1 acre test plot. Depending on how much shade we actually maintain there, I think it would be worthwhile to look into revegetation in some ways or reintroducing native species. But I think the starting point is to realize if you go in there and look at the invasive species choking out the regular trees, it's alarming, and that's going to continue to happen. I think once we remove those and see what's left, we can make a more educated decision about what to do next. I also want to use the lightest touch possible. And talking with Scott about this, black locusts are invasive, yet if we leave large ones and mow the understory where new ones are popping up, that may be a way to sort of strike a balance where we're not letting them run wild and take over, maintaining the shade and the natural feel, but again, not letting the invasive problem get worse. So I'm supportive of this. I think that the timing of it is very, very important. I want to use Scott's advice about the best time to do it for wildlife. I just want to keep the conversation going. So if we could get this done this March without any risk to native species, that's great. If it has to be next year or later in the fall, that's okay too. I just don't want the conversation to stall, because I think what we're going to end up doing is losing the access to the park.
I think I apologize.
No, I was seeing that Andy Gates is in the audience, who's one of our certified arborists, and I thought if I could ask him some questions on invasive Russian olive. I know that all my years on the zoning board, the minute Brian Frank heard the word Russian olive, his head exploded. So it's an extremely aggressive invasive species, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered it pretty well, but one of the pictures that we put in there was the resprouting branch. I'm one of the people who have cut a lot of these olives for more than 20 years on this property. So I'm cutting the same branches a lot of times on the trails over and over and over again. And you can see from those aerial photos the differences, but yes, it's and I think Scott mentioned too that the after we mow down to the ground level, they can grow 5-6 feet tall in a year. Again, we're not at a point of being able to eradicate this species from this property, but it has to be a management effort if we want to continue to have access at all. And that's the only reason why those fields are open, because the ones that we have mowed on an annual basis are open because we can still mow them because we do it annually. If we let go for a few years, then they just grow so quickly that you won't be able to take a mower over it.
So that means less and less users, less and less of the park available to the user groups there. So thanks. That really highlights why I think this is worthwhile to do a test area on.
Do deer browse on Russian olive? Sorry.
I don't think it's certainly not a preferred species at all. That's kind of a problem with a lot of our tree species, is that deer prefer the native plants. So a lot of the native plants get hammered by deer, and the invasive species end up taking over in those spots.
What I would, Ian, what I would recommend is also taking the scientific approach to this as the test. We know we did that when we did the bamboo, in which we had a certain area, 10 by 10 area that we covered over, trying to take photosynthesis or take light out of that. We reached out to a lot of organizations. No one ever really tried to eradicate bamboo the size we did. We also have a deer exclosure up by the Van Scoy Cemetery and the Scoy Estate, in which we take the 10 tallest. Andy does that in the state of the forest. Maybe if we can have a land manager come up with a quarterly approach and report on this to see how it comes every year to the town board, so we could just keep track of that we appreciate to me, because that's the scientific approach for this endeavor. And this, I think one of the nicest things of a more recent invasive species eradication we tried is that Maloney property on 3 Mile Harbor. It fits into what the code said, and actually you can drive up Accabonac Harbor. You could drive up Springs Fireplace Road, just look to the right past Talmadge Farm Lane, you could see all the way out to the channel still. You used to never be able to see that. So there are benefits of this also. But anyway, to be sure, I support it.
And just to reference that bamboo project you're talking about, it's a management effort, an ongoing management effort. That's a very invasive species also as well, of course. And it's not just a one-time cut and removal. We mow that multiple times a year to keep it down.
Yeah, I think that's kind of in terms of goals of the project, I think David's I mentioned the scientific concept, I think, is key. But in terms of overall goals, what is the overall plan for the management of this issue in the park as a whole? If we do think this test is successful, is this something that we would then potentially say we want to apply to further areas of the park or other areas where we're seeing problems with these invasives? It's just, I'd also kind of like to get some understanding as we go through this, what's the continued incremental cost to the town going to be of maintaining the property in this way? Is it in terms of work hours, et cetera? I just think if we're going to take this as an action and think of it as potentially something we're going to roll out more or just a test, I would like to have all the variables just to kind of, grow off that.
Yeah,
think the most of the problem in the park is sort of in the southern side where the autumn olives have really taken over. And so we're picking an area in there that was representative of that. There are parts of the park that are already mowed, by management and are more open. I don't think we want to turn that into in this area into a far open field. And I think to a previous speaker's point, we don't want mugwort to take over because that you highlighted some benefits, but really it prevents the use by people. So, I mean, hopefully the wood chips and, judging by the trees that are marked, there's space in between them that we could get equipment to go in through and I think maintain that as, not fully open space. It's, populated by trees, but still room to walk in between. Because right now in these blocks, you can't enter it. There's trails on the outside, and the goal would be to have more use of that property, but again, still have a natural feel. So I agree with you that how we follow up will be hugely important and has to be a focus.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was the liaison to Springs Park and we walked it. I think it was June of 2023. I was in a boot at the time. And I think, doing a test of up to 1 acre to clear out that the invasives and the autumn olives is appropriate.
And we talked about grinding the stumps below, which will prevent regrowth, but isn't as aggressive as some other tools. So again, the goal is to use a light hand, but still be effective at removing invasives.
Right. So we have board support for, sounds like, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. And thank you, Andy. And I want to say one more time, Andy Gates and Andy Drake, both in land acquisition, are both certified arborists, which they did on their own to help the town as longtime employees. And it's situations like this and many others that's such a huge benefit. And I just want to acknowledge that again publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so folks, it's just after 2. Just so you know, we've got a very robust exec session.
Do you want to super blitz liaison
Yeah,
reports?
if we could, and then maybe go into more detail if you need to.
Absolutely.
Next Tuesday's liaison report.
All right, Amagansett Citizens Advisory, reminder meeting next February 10th, 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School Library. IT, we will be doing OpenGov testing in February. Human Services, Tai Chi for 60 plus begins tomorrow at the Senior Center. We also have the East Hampton Health Fair, Friday, February 7th, 2025, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at St. Luke's going on. Brooks Park, just quickly, we did a tour of the site with the new board, and we actually had a great meeting with the property management group. We'll be following over that lately. Marine Museum, we've begun work on the basement of the property. We'll be reporting that back to the board soon. And special events and film, we'll be presenting to the board proposed fees for 2025 at the next work session. And lastly, License Review Board, meeting with the attorneys just to review some of the process changes that we'll be bringing to the board as well.
The Montauk Citizens Advisory Committee met last night. It's the first meeting of this new year. Reappointed to chairwoman was Diane Hausman. Thank you very much. And Marcy Waterman as far as a recording secretary. So thank you very much. It was a very nice crowd. We discussed some potential parking initiatives and parking changes to some of the parking lots that we've discussed here. I wouldn't mind actually potentially bringing that to a town board work session, maybe even next week. I can send it around and I'll let the
Say it again.
Changes to Montauk parking.
Okay.
Potential changes. We also had Superintendent Josh Odom at the meeting last night. He discussed the upcoming facilities bond initiative that the school district is looking at, and welcomed all residents to contact his office for more information on that. As far as historical preservation, the one update I have is about the Montauk Playhouse. We discussed this actually with the Montauk CAC last night. That progress is going really well. We will actually be removing in upcoming days or week. There's 4 large cryptomeria that are outside. We're going to be putting up public notice flyers on the doors here. The reason we're removing these large cryptomeria is that they're not historically correct. They're not native, and they're actually starting to damage the building itself as far as the foundation, fascia board, gutters, siding, windows, you name it, paint. So they're going to be removed, and part of a planting scheme that's more appropriate will be going in. There will be no access to the facility. It will be consistent throughout that process, but we will be putting these
notices up on the doors and people, just to let everyone know, when you start to remove large trees, people have concerns. I want to give them the reasons why. And if they have any questions, they can contact my office. Two things here. As far as infrastructure, maybe three things. The multi-use field, the Stephen Hands Path at the Honorable Fred Thiel Recreation Facility at Stephen Hands Path has broken ground as of yesterday. They're moving ahead with that, and all calibers. I'll continue to report back on that. We're looking forward to that. Also, the Stephen Hands Path and Long Lane roundabout, it's in full steam right now, and they are actually installing their drainage culverts and cylinders right now then too. At some points during the day, there is one lane traffic down there also. Just be alerted of that then too. Water quality, they are staging equipment for work that's imminent on the IA septic system upgrade at the Springs Library. Please notice that that's what's happening there. That has been an informational sign that's been placed there. As far as two things, there's an email scam. I don't know if you were touched on it.
Yes.
So that did go out. Just want to let everyone know that their email scams all around on all different subjects. It is one of those things in our world that I can't stand, but it's happening. Please be knowledgeable. Some of the email scams might involve town entities or perpetrating as town entities. And that is not true. So be very, very careful. If you have any questions, please contact the town itself on those then too. More information is on the town's website. Two things, there is a meeting on February 13th. That is next Thursday at 6 p.m. It's at the New York State Downs Park. It's a public meeting that's announced to discuss the southern pine beetles response and habitat restoration in Napeague and Hither Hill State Park. Again, this is a meeting that will be working with the New York State Parks, State DEC, local fire departments, in which the highlights will be discussing the creation of their fuel breaks, dead tree cutting, piling of down trees and debris disposal, a development of a comprehensive fuel mitigation and fire management plan, and also continued development implementation of reforestation plan for these affected areas then too. Any more information, please contact the office, New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historical Preservation at 631-321-3529. Lastly, I'm very pleasantly surprised to be able to announce, with the assistance of Supervisor Burke Gonzalez and also Senator Schumer's office, and also many of our other partners in federal government, that we actually received yesterday a 10-day public notice for emergency maintenance dredging of Lake Montauk. As we've heard recently, this has been something that's been critical discussion about impeded shoaling in that local area then too. We've heard it from our fishermen corps, our fishing industry, Coast Guard, Marine Patrol, and others. This public notice doesn't necessarily commit to it, but it's the closest indication that we will have emergency dredging happening potentially in the next month then too. This is all great news. I thank the Army Corps for moving on this. I look forward to getting the full announcement that this will be moving ahead then too, but it's the greatest indication that we will have some temporary relief there to bring it down about 10,000 cubic yards out, bring it down to 12 feet in the areas where there's shoaling, where it's been noticed by boat captains. This does not affect our Capital 107 navigational project that would be planned for the fall. We're constantly moving forward that direction. This gives just immediate relief to public safety out there then too. Again, thank you to Senator Schumer and others for your assistance on this, and thank you to the town board for supporting all the efforts that the supervisor and myself have been working on. And that's all I have.
Thank you, David.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that the Wayne-Scott CAC meeting was moved from last Saturday, and it'll be held this Saturday via Zoom. The Sustainability Committee that is going to be formally formed on Thursday met to talk about priorities and goals for 2025. And one is to promote and to bring awareness to another form of composting, which is backyard composting. So we'll be starting an informational blitz on that with Rewild. We talked about partnering with all of the groups in our community that promote sustainability, sustainable landscaping. We'll be meeting with them. Tom, they're looking to set up a meeting with you for our next meeting on February 15th. If you're available, it's via Zoom at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
For the
Sustainability Committee.
Composting.
For, yeah, composting and sanitation.
Okay.
And also, just again, a shout out to the Beyond Plastics online course through Bennington College. You can audit it for a fee, and you can go to rewildlongisland.org for more information. And then lastly, I want to just thank the Citizens Advisory Committee for East Hampton and Sag Harbor for their hospitality. I sat in last night, and the entire meeting was dedicated to the issues that we spoke about today. Many of them, in fact, most of them were here, and I want to thank them for their concern for our community and our neighbors. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Kate. Ian?
Yeah, it's been a long meeting. I know we've got a lot of work this afternoon. I don't have anything time sensitive, so I'll save my report for next week.
And I was on vacation, so I don't have a report, other than the statement we did earlier.
Did you
So
have a nice time?
we had a great time,
Wonderful.
really.
You're only kind of on vacation. You answered a lot of emails.
I answered a lot of emails. Yes, I did. I came back and my inbox was clear, so that was a really good feeling.
Wow.
Vacation.
No, it was, yeah. All right. Tom, you've got the first resolution.
Thank you very much, Madam Supervisor. I will take Resolution 2025-229. This is to appoint additional members to the Emergency Preparedness Committee for 2025. Be it resolved that Frank Milzer, a representative of Stony Brook Southampton Hospital, and Maureen Rakowski are hereby added as members of the Emergency Preparedness Committee for the calendar year 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
230, this is to be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized to enter into a facilities use agreement with the YMCA in the form of the approved by the Office of the Town Attorney to utilize the YMCA and the Aquatic Center for junior lifeguard and NIPA programs at the lifeguard training conditioning programs on Sundays from March 2nd, 2025 through June 22nd, 2025 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at no cost to the town.
True sign of summer. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm happy to offer Resolution 2025-231. This is promotion and provisional appointment to Assistant Waterway Management Supervisor for Jeremy Gould, and this will be retroactive to January 24th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to withdraw Resolution 2025-232.
Second.
I think I've just discussion on this one. I wouldn't mind actually reviewing in the face of increasing inflation and product costs, potentially some of our purchasing policies in the future, but that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, agreed. So we had a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I have Resolution 233, which is to retain Gerald Weinberg for code enforcement. Resolve that Gerald Weinberg, PC, attorneys at law, are hereby retained for the services of process upon Secretary of State for enforcement proceedings in Town Justice Court as needed at a cost of $15 plus $10 filing fee for a total cost of $25 per service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 234, which is to amend Resolution 2024-1563, which is a reimbursement of special event fees. This is simply to clarify the names on the checks for the reimbursement that we already approved, which was in association with the Longhouse Reserve 501c3 event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 235, this is to authorize cleaning services at 54 Tub Oarsman. This is to approve hiring Maid Pro for one-time cleaning service at a rate of $65 per hour for amount not to exceed $500.
Second, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 236, this is to amend Resolution 2025-175 to pay past PSEG invoices. The resolution is amended to authorize payment to PSEG for past due invoices in the amount listed on the original resolution, minus the sales tax.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 237, this is to amend Resolution 2025-176, surveying for Cantwell Court subdivision. Gary Benz has submitted a quote for additional work in the amount of $8,000. The total amount not to exceed $11,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 225-238 is to authorize Sergeant Bradley Rozzi to attend the Property and Evidence Management Training sponsored by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. The financial impact is not to exceed $2,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
239 is a 2024 budget modification for health insurance. We're moving across a number of different lines, $96,829 to health insurance retiree across four funds. And we're increasing the revenue budget line for safety inspection fees in the amount of $157,853.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2025-240 is to appoint part-time harbor master Dennis Winter at the hourly rate of $25 effective February 4th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
241 is to appoint part-time traffic control officer Marianne Brennan at the hourly rate of $17.58.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
242 is to appoint part-time lifeguard coordinator John Ryan Senior. Is that supposed to be senior?
Yes.
Okay, at the hourly rate of $35.36, retroactive to January 22nd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to go into exec session?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for contracts, personnel, litigation, public safety, and invasive counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, LTV.
Thank you.
We have a